Apec riding the wave of the e-commerce trend, emerging and expanding business options for MSMEs workshop here today at the Anantara Riverside Bangkok Resort. My name is Natapun Petera. I'm from the Keenan Institute Asia, and I will be your Masters of Ceremonies for this two-day workshop. So, as you may be aware of, this event is organized by the Office of the Small and Medium Enterprise Promotion, or OSMEP, here in Thailand, on behalf of the Apec SME Working Group. The seminar aims to build an understanding among participants, especially entrepreneurs, from micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises, of key dimensions of e-commerce operations such as logistics, online payment systems, e-commerce platforms, and e-marketing strategies, just to name a few. At the government policy level, the seminar will advance policymakers' understanding, particularly from the perspective of developing economies, of the benefits of e-commerce and how targeted policies can help promote e-commerce in our respective economies. Entrepreneurs and policymakers will then have the chance to discuss and produce recommendations on key policies and possible public-private partnerships to strengthen and enhance the e-commerce ecosystem in our region. It really promises to be 2 days of engaging speeches and discussions that we sincerely hope will broaden your horizons in one way or the other. Before I move further, I would also like to say that this event here today will be Facebook Live on the Office of SME Promotion Thailand's page. So the page is, so if you want to see where the page is, so you type your Facebook, it's OSMEP, so OSMEP. And then after that, you see a couple of Thai characters that, if you're not acquainted with the Thai language, you probably have no idea what it is, but that's our page. So please hit it a like, that would be great. And the entire event, today and tomorrow, will be Facebook Live on that page. Okay, so therefore, without further ado, please join me in welcoming the Director General of the Office of SME Promotion Thailand, OSMEP, Mr. Suwanchai Lohak Watanakun, to the podium to give the welcome speech. Thank you.
Sawadee Apec delegates, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Apec, the Office of SME Promotion and Keenan Institute Asia, it is my great pleasure and honor to welcome all of you to the Apec Riding the Wave of the E-commerce trend, emerging and expanding business options for MSMEs workshop. I would like to begin by expressing my sincerest gratitude to Dr. Piche Durokavero, our Minister of the Digital Economy and Society of Thailand, for kindly being with us here today and delivering the keynote speech later this morning. I would like to thank Ajahn Buchawichan, the President of Keenan Institute Asia, for being a trusted and long-standing partner with OSMEP on countless projects over the years. Dr. Chen Guolian, Secretary General SMEA, Ministry of Economic Affairs, Chinese Taipei, our co-host for Apec O2O events on 6 June and 7 June. To Dr. Peter Lovelock and our speakers and moderators, I thank you all for agreeing to generously share your valuable experience and expertise with us during the workshop. I would also like to express my warmest welcome to all of the participants who are here today, both from Thailand and from Apec economies in Asia, North America, South America, and Europe. I know that many of you have traveled a long way to be here, and I'm deeply thankful for your attendance at this important and timely workshop. It is undeniable that new disruptive technologies are changing the very nature of how we conduct business in just about every industry imaginable. Just think about where we were 20 years ago. There were no smartphones, Windows were only things that we looked through. Anyone who could send an email was high-tech, whilst Nokias and floppy disks were still the stars of the game. Today, needless to say, the landscape is totally different. It is well known that retail is one such industry that has been heavily disrupted by technology. You all know the story. Back in the first quarter of the year 2009, Walmart was the third largest publicly traded company in the world. By market capitalization, while Amazon was only the 126th largest. Walmart then was well over 6 times the size of Amazon and many times more well known. Fast forward less than 10 years, and Amazon is the fourth largest publicly traded company in the world. And with a market capitalization of around 3 times that of Walmart. Alibaba, a company virtually unheard of a decade ago, is now almost twice the size of Walmart. Such dramatic change of fortunes are the quintessential illustration of the power of disruptive technologies. E-commerce is faster, more convenient, cheaper, and accessible to the far more customers than traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Often, the equation is simple. You either ride the wave or you are swept away by the wave. Walmart itself has been expanding and investing heavily into e-commerce in recent years. It has to adapt or else it will find itself at the receiving end of the wave, similar to Nokia product of the world. The good news is that although e-commerce has completely disrupted the retail industry, it is still not too late to adopt it. Today, it still only represents around 10% of all global retail sales, but it projected to grow substantially in the very near future as more and more people around the world, particularly in underdeveloped and developing economies, are getting online. In other words, the wave has arrived, but it hasn't swept past us yet. This is still time to ride it. It is not always easy, however, to ride and drive on such turbulent waves. Riding these disruptive technological waves require an open mind, specific skill sets, sufficient capital, and very importantly, the right personnel. In other words, it is more than just a paradigm shift, but rather a shift of a culture, operations, and human resource of company. To say it can be daunting to make such transformation is an understatement. Although some businesses are able to and have taken that step, many others need assistance from the government through smart and targeted policies. Policies that provide business with the proper tools and knowledge. Formulating such policy requires a genuine understanding of what SME need in order to embrace e-commerce. This is exactly why we have brought together both entrepreneurs and policy makers to this workshop. Throughout the 2 days, you will have the opportunity to hear from entrepreneurs that have successfully embraced e-commerce, who will share their invaluable insights and experiences, and from leading policymakers on how to create an enabling environment for SME to adopt e-commerce. There will be plenty of opportunity to ask the speaker and panelists questions, as well as time to discussion and brainstorming among ourselves. We sincerely hope that this workshop will provide a platform to bridge and connect policymakers and business together to achieve common goals. We are delighted that Apec SME Working Group has made e-commerce a priority this year. Through e-commerce, SME will be exposed to countless new markets and millions of new potential customers. They will be able to integrate themselves much more seamlessly to global value chain. The potential and opportunity within e-commerce is limitless for SMEs. Adopting e-commerce is certainly easier said than done, but if the key players in the APEC economies come together, I genuinely believe that we can achieve significant progress for our SMEs, which are the bedrock and the backbone of our economies. We are looking forward to exciting and valuable workshop the next 2 days, and we all ride along together on this e-commerce wave. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Suwanchai, for your welcome speech. Next, I would like to turn the floor over to Dr. Pishet Durong-Kawairod, Minister of Digital Economy Society, Thailand, to deliver the keynote speech, which is going to be about the significance of e-commerce for MSMEs in the region. Please welcome Dr. Pishet.
Good morning. First, let me finish on the formal greeting before getting to the substance. This morning, the program has very good and impressive values, I think, to all of us. So let me start by saying good morning to Dr. Chen Guolian, Secretary General of SME Administration, Kun Suwanchai Lohapatanakun, Director General of Office of SME Promotion, Kun Piyabut Chonvijan, President of Kenan Institute Asia, Thai participants, members of the press, and my special warm welcome to all APEC executives and delegates who are here with us today, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me to this very interesting seminar. In fact, almost 20 years ago, I was quite active in the APEC Telecom Working Group, so being here is familiar territory. And I do welcome all of you, even though it's 2 decades has passed, but I think we still have many challenges ahead of us. Today is rather different from 20 years ago, not only in time dimension, but 20 years ago we were talking a lot about regulation, deregulation, human resource development, how to make SME more productive. Today the language is rather different. We're now talking about disruption, especially digital disruption. We are now talking about entrepreneurship led by startups. We are now talking about doing away with the legacy system of regulation so that we can promote innovation. And I don't see the difference between large enterprises down to micro SMEs. We are facing the same challenge. Certainly, large enterprises have the advantage of having more resources and can adapt themselves rather quickly. So today, whether it's SME or MSME, we must find good approaches and the way to adapt ourselves for this ever-changing world, which is rather quick. The reason I have to say this is because this challenge is somewhat peculiar from what we experienced in the past. While there they pose a lot of threats to us. They also provide a lot of new opportunities to us as well. The question is, how are we going to conduct ourselves to the end that we want, and that is prosperity of all SMEs and SMEs, of sustainability in doing businesses, and of certainly competitiveness that we are looking for. Same destination as 20 years ago, but the journey is rather different. So before I get into all the slides that my staff has prepared for me, I'd like to maybe exchange with you some views that I think we are facing together today. Number one, look around us. How different are we from 10, 20 years ago? Digitization. Everybody has in your pocket somewhat electronic gadgets, whatever they are. Can you live without mobile phones? Without checking your chat lines, your Facebook, your emails? And the way you check today is not desktop computer. Probably not even notebooks that you have used previously. Things have changed very quickly. In Thailand, apart from the fact that we are major users of mobile phones, the subscription rate today is 150%, meaning out of the 67 million people that we have about 100 million mobile subscription. That's the level of penetration of digitization that we are experiencing today. The average time of ASEAN member countries, all 10 of them, in using social media is about 3 to 4 hours per day. Thailand is on the top end, about nearly 5 hours per day. I don't know what they're using it for. Maybe a lot of video games, maybe a lot of videos, movies, clips, and certainly a lot of chatting. Things have changed, and what I observe is that society is experiencing changes, and if the societies can look forward to the benefit of the whole society, which I would term it inclusiveness, then this is a chance for us, even though we are behind the large enterprises, we are behind many countries who have already developed very quickly, the chance to leapfrog, the chance to get ahead into the space where we have never experienced before. I'm speaking like Star Trek today. Why? Because of the digitization. Well, if I can put it into a larger scale, because of the fourth industrial revolution. This is meaningful because today everybody can enjoy digitization, no matter what classes you are, what education you have, what professions you are working on. It's quite equal, different from many other technologies. As you know, biotechnology, nanotechnology, material sciences, and so on. So the opportunity to leapfrog is now, but you better be quick. Because if you are slow, by the end of the day, when you have finished what you want to do, technology changes again. You have to redo the whole process again. So speed, as Microsoft, Bill Gates have said 20 years ago, the economy of speed is real. Okay, so you are now at the juncture where society, global society is changing. You are now at the juncture where you can make the best out of innovation and digitization. But you must be prepared rather quickly. And by quickly, and here I would like to pinpoint the big infrastructure that we envisage here in Thailand of how to set a good foundation for the near future of innovation and how to cater or take care of the disruption that's streaming into our society. Okay. So let me have the next slide, please. Okay. The next one, since I don't have much time, I'll skip all these philosophical things. These are the 5 elements that Thailand is preparing the society this year. It's not even a 5-year plan. It's a 1-year plan. Okay? In order to move Thailand upward to the so-called digital Thailand. Okay? Easy to say, very difficult to do, but we must do it. The 5 elements of digital Thailand consist of digital infrastructure, manpower, especially digital workforce, and digital education. Technology development, especially digital technology that would enhance all other sectors, not only in digital sector. It could enhance the electric vehicle in the future. It could enhance the manufacturing into smart manufacturing. It would enhance smart logistics. Many countries are building a lot of things, but you need to now include digitization into all this. Number 4 is cybersecurity. The reason we have to say this is because without which we are prone into being damaged by digital attacks, cyber attacks, and so on. And last but not least is an opportunity to invigorate and to reform the public sector through digitization. So this is the 5 elements of digital Thailand. But before getting into details, let me say this, because this conference focuses on e-commerce trend and business options and opportunities. Let me give you just 1 or 2 quick examples of what we can do by using the example that Thailand is experiencing today. Today we see the emergence and the proactive movement of the private sector, global private sector, especially the big ones, that would provide e-commerce capability to each and every nation. Because this is global business today. We are talking about platforms, we are talking about e-marketplace, we are talking about electronic payment, we are even talking about the tracing and tracking of e-logistics. The whole thing is sort of e-commerce. E-commerce is not only for large enterprises. It is not only for cross-border e-commerce, but e-commerce, in our view, in Thailand, is also for community level. And this is what I want to convey to you. We have hope because inclusiveness is one of the major pillars of Thailand 4.0. Inclusiveness. Don't leave anybody behind. This is crucial to us. We can be very competitive, but if 10% of the merchants acquire 80% of the businesses, then the society cannot go on. Okay? We need to move up the small and medium enterprises. In our case, we need to move up SME as well as the community villages. How? Well, this is where digitization creeps in. Today in Thailand, we see the opportunity whereby digital infrastructure the one on the top, can provide inclusiveness to Thailand. And that is the penetration of fiber optics, of fast internet, of broadband infrastructure to every village in Thailand. Very simple notion of inclusiveness is the have and have not that we talk about. In the old days, it's a lot of things to do with wealth of property, but today, the have and have not of opportunities led by digitization. If we in Bangkok can enjoy high-speed internet, why not our fellow villagers 700 kilometers away, up on a mountain, cannot enjoy the same thing? It's not allowable, it's not permissible to see the so-called digital divide in this age of digital. So that's one thing, provide them with opportunity. But that's not enough, because by having just the internet connectivity does not mean that they are better off. They may be better off in terms of communications, but not in terms of wealth generation and wealth distribution. So that's where e-commerce at the local level, at the SME level, and at the community level can come in. Today in Thailand, because of the fact that we are seeing a lot of incoming major enterprises from all over the places, internationally, domestically, and we feel that we need to create a structure whereby we can build our own strength within, rather than waiting for joint ventures with big corporations from abroad alone. That we cannot prevent. This is capitalist system. Okay? We have to live with it. But to gain strength from within, we must do it by ourselves. Here in Thailand, a good example is the fact that under the Ministry of Digital Economy and Society, we have the Postal Service, Thailand Post, for which, if you think about it, I think every nation has a pretty similar kind of structure in that the Postal Service has a lot of manpower. In Thailand, we have 24,000 postmen. May I say, post women as well? And in this digital world, they need to be reformed. And the best thing to reform is to get them to do more and more e-commerce, especially in what they are very good at, and that is knowing the localities. Postmen know every household. Now, what we need to fill up the gaps for postal service is the capability of building the e-marketplace, which is not that difficult. It's on the screen. Okay. The capability of being able to provide money transfer, fund transfer, electronic transactions, electronic payment, which is, again, not so difficult anymore. Postal service can do all this, and this would start you to see how the original legacy system, traditional post office, can be transformed into modern post office, providing modern trade services to locals. Here's what we do. We get the Thailand Post to set up a system covering all the 3 E's: e-market, e-payment, and e-logistics. Okay. E-logistics, no need to mention because they have been doing it every day already. Okay. But the 2 things can be done quite easily. Then they come up with a set of hardware, okay. Software incorporated. They experiment last year, the past 6 months, on 200 villages. Experiment on these gadgets training or teaching the villagers for about 2 or 3 days to do it themselves. Okay. And digitization is rather simple. You know, it's a click kind of mechanism. Right? So once you teach them, the villagers start to learn how to sell things online. Now is the management part. The management part would require knowing what they want to sell, knowing how to put it up on the net, and knowing how different ways of e-payment can reach their pockets or their account very quickly also, since it's not cash anymore, and how delivery system, whichever direction, can be done very efficiently. So the system called point of sale has been widespread today to about 200 villages today. And this year we are aiming at doing about 5,000 villages. You don't have to cover every village. You need to have a central village that can take care of 10 or 20 villages nearby. E-commerce can take off. It has taken off rather quickly. If you talk to the villagers today of this point of sale village, you see how happy they are. Because once in their lifetime, they can sell products to somewhere they don't know, coming from nowhere, coming from Norway, coming from different provinces in Thailand, coming from many other countries that they never realized they would have opportunities before. And this includes also the service sector, whereby the homestay and the local resorts can sell their services through this wonderful internet and wonderful management system. So this is one good example that I think we, as developing countries, or even developed countries, can do, so that we can fulfill the gaps and at the same time provide more opportunities. The thing that would be positive externality is the fact that once you do it, you start to notice that the sons and daughters of these villages now start to think about stay home rather than move to metropolitan to find jobs, because they have jobs in the villages. To be manager of the digital store, whatever, digital enterprise, whatever. And B2B start to happen because of this. Same system that can be used at the mom and pop stores. It's sort of overnight you transform these mom and pop stores into modern trade, because they now can use the online trading to make the goods very fresh, the delivery very fast, and the inventory very minimal. Save a lot of money. Okay. So, very simple example, but I think very powerful, because we are talking about large numbers of communities. For the first time that we can say this because of the power of digital technology. So digital technology does not only serve big companies. That's my message. You cannot fight them, but you can help yourself in order to build a strong infrastructure within your own economy, within your own communities. The fact that you can provide opportunities to villages is something good that you are contributing to your own society. That's our view. The rest, I think it's quite traditional, but I think it must be done rather quickly also. Number one, to train people. Because we are moving into digital age, many things will happen, including the fact that a lot of people, a lot of workers will be laid off because of automation, because of new business models. So each society must find a way to either reskill or to move some of the workforce into other sectors. In some factory, 3,000, 5,000 workers can be laid off rather quickly because of automation. And that's a fact, because manufacturers need to cut down on their costs, and automation is something that they will cut down. So we need to do it rather quickly. The tough thing is to integrate digital learning into education. That I find quite difficult because of the delay time in education system. But in terms of human resource, one must also pay attention to startups, young entrepreneurs, new entrepreneurs. Here in Thailand, we find it very challenging, very exciting, because all of a sudden, within a few years, we see that startup is a new economic platform. For the first time, without any money in their pocket, they can be startup. It's the creativity that creates startup. For the first time, they don't have to walk to commercial banks asking for loan, because under startup system, there is the so-called angel funding, there's the so-called venture capital funding. It's a risk-taking venture together with the startup themselves. And for the first time, they can look at the global market, even though they are just a simple individual starting to do business for the first time of their life. So many examples that you can see, that you can learn from many good examples around the world. Number 3, for technology development, I just want to mention briefly that it is also an opportunity for many countries now to develop their own indigenous technologies rather than importing from developed economies. In Thailand, we know we are still an agriculture-based society. So we need to do a lot more in precision farming, for example. And precision farming can be equated to developing Internet of Things, to developing electronic gadgets for decision making, as well as for precision agriculture venture. Okay. So all ministries, all sectors can benefit from digitization if you can be very quick, if you can think about the strategic position that your country or your sector will win in the end. In Thailand, we think IoT is something that will be crucial to our technology development. And IoT can be IoT for anything, as the name suggests, Internet of Things, anything. IoT for the automobile industry, IoT for our agriculture and food industry, IoT for our service sector, for our tourism, and so on. So there are a lot of opportunities in that area. Number 4, cybersecurity. It's important that every society must defend themselves so that they can be well protected from cyber attacks. No country would be free from cyber attacks from now on, as we have experienced the past few years. It's just a matter of degree of how much it affects you. Last but not least, e-government or digital government. And here you can have a lot of things to do, never-ending endeavors. Let me give you one example. This year, the Thai government is working hard on getting every ministry, we have 20 ministries, to work on big data. The reason is we find, similar to what the private sector is finding, that big data can enlighten us, if it's private sector, to create new businesses, new services, because of the depth of knowledge that they know the preference and the taste of the consumers. Same thing in the public sector. If you know the needs and the demand of the citizens, you can provide better services. That's it. But easier said than done. To get big data organized in each and every ministry is a huge task. It's a lot to do with regulation. with ownership of data, with data protection law, with cybersecurity, and a lot more. It will be very beautiful if you can integrate big data of different ministries together, and you will find something very interesting. Most recently, we have integrated big data from 5 ministries to answer a very simple, short question of how to predict the quality of very young child, aged from 0 to 3 years old, by big data of their parents. And with that, you can even use artificial intelligence to make sure that you have some sort of good formulation to predict the outcome of a baby with the socio-economic structure of their parents. You cannot do it without big data because you need huge subjects in order to make more accurate prediction. That's a very good example. And today we have a lot of data in the social media. And one can also, and this is how the many major private sectors are working on our data, our preference in watching videos, our preference in buying things, and so on. They now are suggesting us. Once you buy a product, they now know what to suggest. You know, in the end of, before you hit the enter or OK, they will also suggest these are a few more items that you may be interested in. How did you know? Because of big data from your own personal data. And this is what we have to struggle from now on because of data protection regulation is now heavily enforced today. So ladies and gentlemen, let me finish up by giving you some very quick statistics of the e-commerce in Thailand. We have every year doing some survey of how big of e-commerce trading in our own country is, and I believe it's 2016 that is quite a lot. I mean, we don't even think that it's going to be this much. 76 billion US dollars of trading, online trading, and it's going to increase. Next year it's going to increase 10%, and it's more and more. So the O2O thing, online to offline, offline to online, starts to be an issue. Department stores will have to start thinking seriously whether they will exist anymore in the future as places where people go and shop and buy. It's going to become a place where there are a lot of food to eat, there are a lot of entertainment, and a lot of window shopping. They go back home to buy online. This is happening, and you see major corporations are now struggling in order to adjust themselves to the online behavior of consumers. It's cheaper, it's very convenient. I believe that sooner or later, you order this morning, early afternoon, things will arrive. Today it may be next day, but it will be more and more efficient all the time because of the competition. So how would department stores, how would commercial banks going to compete in the future? Even non-banks are threatening the commercial banks today. The non-banks, because it's very simple, especially with blockchain technology. And now here comes ICO, initial coin offering. You know, we don't know where the money travels. It's a secret in a way because of the encryption technology. Very secure, but we don't know where it goes. Last year, when there was WannaCry, the ransomware, okay? To unlock that ransomware, you pay Bitcoin. It gives a bad name to Bitcoin. But this is real, this is coming, and we need to face the challenge. So I just browse through this so that you can see the trend that will confirm to what I have said earlier, that no matter whether you want it or not, is here. It's just a matter of how you treat it. It's a matter of how you can have good strategies to make the best out of it, to reduce the damage, whatever it is that will come with it, and to provide opportunities to your population. Okay? So all these are good numbers for you to look at in many areas. And this is, in particular case, is for the case of Thailand. The sectors that are heavy into using the online, it may be different from your economy. Next, please. And these are just some numbers. It's going to change, you know. So the speed of each society will dictate the way ranking would be settled. So don't worry about all these numbers. Okay, it's a matter of how you're going to react to it, how fast you can do it, and whether it fits into your taste, your societal taste, your consumer taste, and the public policy that would come along. There'll be a lot of public policy, and we can talk about public policy for hours, but government, private sector, university people, community people have to work together. This is no time for big companies, no time for government alone to act. It's for the whole society to integrate and kind of a fabric where you have a good woven fabric that in the end it is very robust, very sustainable, and at the same time very strong. You need a strong society, not a strong large enterprises alone. A strong society means small fabrics of the society need to be strengthened as well. Okay, what else do we have? So you can have these slides. I'm not going to spend any time on this, but I would just like to end by saying that it's good that you can be together, and I think through the exchanges that you're going to have throughout these few days should maybe enlighten a number of issues so that you can bring back and see how your particular society can adapt and adopt so that we can enter the 21st century, which we have already entered, in a stronger position, and especially not only competitive, I would say sustainable way, which is crucial for the strong economy as well as strong society. And that's why we intentionally, early last year, established a new ministry called Ministry of Digital Economy and Society, so that we don't forget the society. Okay, not just enjoy boosting the economy to GDP and so on. We need to grow together, to be strong together, don't leave anyone behind. So with this, I thank you very much for your attention, and I hope this few days of seminar will be very fruitful and benefit to you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Pishet, for your keynote speech and taking the time to be with us here today. I would now like to invite Mr. Suwanchai to the stage to present Dr. Pishet a gift as a token of our appreciation. So I would now like Dr. Pishet and Mr. Suwanchai to remain on stage, to be joined by Dr. Shen Guoliang, Secretary General at the Small and Medium Enterprise Administration from Chinese Taipei, Dr. Vimuntran Kosumat, Deputy Director General at the Office of Small and Medium Enterprises Promotion Thailand, Mr. Piaput Chunvijan, President of Keelan Institute Asia, Mr. John Da Silva, Director of Corporate Engagement and Head of Marketing at Keenan Institute Asia. Dr. Sai Soman Watanapani, Senior Advisor at Keenan Institute Asia. And I would also like to invite all present workshop speakers, panelists, and moderators to the stage for a group photo opportunity. So also like all present workshop speakers, moderators, and panelists. So just, and can we have the speakers and moderators come up as well, panelists. Okay. So thank you everyone for your cooperation. Before I invite our next speaker, I would also like to cover some administrative issues. Firstly, at the end of every single session, we'll open the floor for a couple minutes of Q&A from the audience. So please, as you listen to each speaker, please think of some possible questions that you might like to ask at the end of the session. Or alternatively, you can also write your questions down on little notes, post-it notes that we have on your tables, and our staff will collect it to give to the speaker or the moderator at the end of each session. So just wanted to let you know there will be an option for Q&A to each of our speakers and panelists. Also, secondly, you should all have been handed a workshop evaluation form when you came in earlier this morning. So if you're only here for today, then please do fill out the workshop evaluation form today and turn it in to the little golden box that says please turn in evaluation form at the registration table by the end of today. But if you're also here for tomorrow as well, you can fill out the workshop evaluation form tomorrow and turn it in tomorrow. But please do fill out the workshop evaluation form. They're very important for us to be able to produce better workshops and seminars in the future, and we appreciate your cooperation. So now that we've covered some administrative issues, let me move on to introducing our next speaker. So our next speaker is Dr. Peter Lovelock. He's currently the director and co-founder of TPRC, Technology Research Project Corporate. It's based in Singapore. It's an IT and telecommunications-based think tank with offices in Singapore, Hong Kong, and China. Dr. Lovelock brings more than 25 years of experience in telecommunications, technology, and media to these undertakings, including regulatory assessments, implementation and execution projects, and due diligence and market entry strategic guidance projects throughout Asia. In recent years, Dr. Lovelock has also provided advice to companies like Microsoft, Google, eBay, Visa, and PayPal, and to organizations like ASEAN, Apec, and the US government on various issues. We're very lucky to have him today, and today he will be providing us with an overview of the current e-commerce landscape in Apec economies and in the region. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Lovelock to the stage.
enjoyed Dr. Pichet's keynote introduction. I think it had a lot of very important points in it. Starting with what is e-commerce? I think he very correctly identified e-commerce is everything. I think the more correct question becomes often, what isn't e-commerce at this point in time? He also picked up on a number of other very important points, which is the way that e-commerce is driving much of our digital economy development agenda. That it's at the vanguard of so much of what we see moving into what can at times be called digitalization or the fourth industrial revolution or the new age or on and on and on. And what we find is a virtuous cycle that is beginning to be enabled by enabling content consumption and then e-commerce access and facilitation, which leads to so many of these other things. So as he was pointing out, we're looking at e-commerce as being about farming, about agriculture, about textiles and manufacturing. And these are important considerations when we're looking at what e-commerce is, how to enable it, who's participating, what the opportunities are, what the blocks to seeing e-commerce permeate and become more pervasive. And he did a very interesting example for me, talking about Thai Post and the importance of Thai Post, and I couldn't agree with some of the points, all of the points he was making. Repetitively, and they need to be repeated. It was important for me. I joined a venture in Singapore probably about a decade or so ago now, by one of the rich industrialists who was aiming to buy Singapore Post, Singpost, and had done so in the first step by buying a group called Singapore Yellow Pages. Do you remember the Yellow Pages groups? Do you remember the phone directories books that we all used to have? This was fun for me because 10 or 15 years before in China, we've made a lot of money by riding the wave, as it's called here today, of the initial privatization and separation of telecommunications functions. And one of those was spinning out the Yellow Pages groups from all of these telecommunications bodies all over the world. And you spun them out for a simple reason, the advertising. People took out a lot of advertising in those Yellow Pages directories back in the old days. And those Yellow Pages directories went to everybody. And by the early 2000s, I'd left China and I was working in Singapore. And I was helping a startup run a mobile payments company around the region. And the guy, this rich industrialist, came and he offered to buy the company because he wanted me to join. And I said, I'm not joining the Yellow Pages group. They're yesterday's news. That's such a sunset business. It's dead and dying. Why would you want me to do that? And he asked me where I thought digitalization and e-commerce and all of this was going. And he had a very strategic view in mind of what he was doing. He was going to digitalize and re-enable this old sunset company of publishing and advertising and try to marry it up to enablement of SMEs across Singapore, and then tie all of these old groups that used to be joined together. The Yellow Pages groups used to all come together around the region. And I still didn't buy this. I thought this was jibber jabber. I thought this was quite aspirational. And he said, come with me. I want to show you what I saw when I decided I was going to buy the Yellow Pages group. And he took me out with the guys who would sell the advertising. And we went and met these SMEs. And we walked in for the first sales meetings. And he said, just sit in the back with me. And we had these young guys and their entire business was making the commission for selling advertising in the Yellow Pages books. And as we sat down, for this person who was going to be asked to give 6 or 12 or 24 months worth of advertising to an old publication, yay thick, that gets delivered free to everyone in Singapore, like it does most places in the world, that most people, if they keep them, use as doorstops or as ladders to reach up, and because no one reads those things anymore. We've all got our directories on here or on the web. they would start into yelling at the person who was doing the sale. Why am I giving you my money? Why aren't I giving it to Google? Why aren't I looking at Facebook? Why would I give you? You're a dead company. I'm not giving you the money. And they would do this for 25 minutes, and I wanted to leave. And Stanley held my arm and he said, sit, sit. And this guy got yelled at and yelled at and yelled at. And at the end of 25 minutes of this haranguing, the guy said, well, come on, just give me the contract. And I looked amazed. And the poor sales guy would hand over the contract. And the guy would sign and he'd mutter about why he didn't know he was throwing over the money. And we walked out and I said, how often does that happen? I said, always. 90% of people are still signing with us. And I said, why? After all of that verbal, right, which by the way I agree with, I don't know why they're advertising this. And they said, because they trust us. Do they ever see Google coming to their door? We show up a minimum of twice a year. The sales guys know every single SME and business in Singapore. And they'll visit, and it means a lot to the small business owner to get to yell at them and say, well, you're not doing a proper job for me and I want more value for my advertising. And what are you going to do about it? And when you come back, I want you to have some more statistics. And that personal connection, despite all of this virtualization and digitalization, was still fundamentally important to them. I think that point all too often when we start top-down gets lost. And I see a lot of what Thailand's doing and the other economies around Asia are doing. And the way Dr. Pichet was looking at this, it's very important to capturing both of these aspects. We have to use these communications and other related technologies to drive our opportunities while keeping that personal touch and actually being able to build on that and build these things together. When we start getting into important issues that both APEC and ASEAN are wrestling with on an ongoing basis, data protection and data privacy, cybersecurity issues, data ownership issues, payments fraud issues, and then all the new technologies that make these things difficult, Bitcoin and blockchain, Internet of Things, digital identities. Being able to keep the personal issues and trust factor there is fundamentally important at the same time that we're wiring everybody up. If we lose that piece as we bring everybody online, we will not enable this virtuous cycle that's going to see the value come into everything that we're talking about. So, am I clicking as I'm talking? So, before I came, I've been travelling a lot recently, and I looked at the program that had been sent to me, and it said in the program copy I had that I was speaking for either 90 minutes or 2 hours. So I had about 150 slides to go through, and I have a whole lot of ground to cover. I think I'm speaking for less than that now. Yes? Yes?
Yeah.
How long would you like me to speak for?
An hour.
And how long?
1 hour.
You want to listen to me for an hour? Just so you all know, I get sick of my own voice and bored. I have a very short concentration span. I'll get bored after about 15 minutes maximum. So I will try and break this up a little bit, but if you've got questions, rather than waiting to the end, ask the questions. I'm going to speed through what was about 2 hours worth of material and pick up on a few things, and I'm going to break a couple of times, I think, so that you can pick up on a few questions. But please, interrupt as I go. But even with all that material, I'm going to get bored standing up here soon, so I'm going to start walking around. Do you have mics there? Okay. Alright. Even with all of that, I wanted to start with a couple of stories, because the e-commerce stuff just always mesmerizes me. So, about, wow, how old am I? So back in the 90s, as I think it might have been flagged, I was living in China. We'd been rolling out the internet for about a decade in China. And it was wonderful for me because it meant that for the first time in my life I got on really well with my family because they come from Australia. And we discovered in my early adulthood, I discovered in my early adulthood that if I lived in a different hemisphere from my parents, I got on really well with them. So living in China was good for me. And it would get to Christmas each year, and I'm a good son, so I would get all of my extended family presents. And there was this wonderful invention that we all know called Amazon. And so I would be able to order gifts for everybody, and they would get packed by Amazon. And I did this for about 5 years running, where I could buy all of the gifts for my family all over the world who would congregate in Australia, and they would get wrapped and they would get delivered, and they were lovely. And I would call my mum on Christmas Day, and everyone would say, sorry we miss you, but great presents. And I'd be on a beach somewhere having a real holiday rather than dealing with my parents. But after 5 years, I figured I was pushing this a little bit too far, and it was probably time I did the right thing and went home for Christmas to my family. And so I did. It was about 1998, 1999. I survived Christmas. I got back to China, and I went online and started going through all of my work emails. And there was an email there from Amazon that said, Dear Mr. Lovelock, we don't mean to intrude, but we just want to check you're okay. We noticed from our records that every year about this time, you order lots of presents. We think they're from your family. You seem to direct them to the same places, and we noticed that this year we haven't heard from you for 3 months, and we just want to check that you're okay. And I was living a pretty lonely, busy life at this point in time. I burst into tears. This was so lovely. I framed this, and I had this up on the wall of my office, that they knew who I was and they cared about me. And I still have this email in a frame, and I show it to cybersecurity people these days and privacy advocates, because I thought this was the nicest element of customer care that I'd seen. They knew who I was and they cared about me. It is illegal these days. You cannot do that these days. And that shift in customer care and what we value in terms of how a company looks at us is so dramatically different. Again, it's sort of worth bearing in mind the journey that we're going through on all of this stuff. So you'll see some of the areas I want to cover. I want to look at what we consider e-commerce within the context of this broader digital economy. I want you to keep in mind this idea of what is e-commerce, or more correctly, what isn't e-commerce. And what do we mean when we talk about e-commerce? What are we trying to enable and why? So let me walk through these first couple of sections a little bit slowly, and then try and see if I can speed it up through some of the key points. As I said, picking up on Dr. Boucher's comments, e-commerce is at the vanguard of what we see in terms of the digital economy and why it's important to focus there in terms of development and transactions and so on. The digital platforms, the digital enablement is changing and transforming business models. It lowers barriers to entry. It lowers the cost of transactions. It means that companies are now starting from their inception as micro multinationals, as born global. You can now simply start a business, register in some jurisdictions almost immediately, put up a website, and your entire market is the world. Your market, both for selling and promoting yourself, is beyond your neighbourhood or your city. It is the region, it is the country, it is the world. But also your suppliers can now be contacted anywhere. And so a company even like mine, a consulting research firm, will get its supply services from 25 different countries with our various associates. My payment services are disaggregated across 5 different countries. My providers, my packages, my marketing is across 7 different countries. And that's true for almost any company that wants to start up now, whether they're in agriculture, manufacturing, or services. That changes the nature of what we look at when we look at business. It means costs and barriers are low. And if we're going to sustain this, we need to recognise that and make sure we continue it. It also, however, means that the cost of return on investment is much longer. We're now talking about smaller amounts that come back for the investment that goes in. And for the infrastructure pieces, for the whole enablement of the ecosystem, that raises some very challenging questions. Dr. Boucher talked about the need to get everyone on the network. I'm going to come back to that a few times. how, when you've reduced what people are seeing come in through competition to getting the money necessary to building out your ecosystem platforms, how you do that raises some challenging questions. And it is all aspects of the economy. It is not simply retail we're talking about. And most of society, most of the social aspects are also being incorporated into this platform picture that we're developing. When you think about education and healthcare, and when you think about the donor sector, the NGO sector, how they're communicating, how they're bringing their donation platforms in, how they're reaching out to the people they support, we're now talking about all of society being transformed by this connectivity. It increases the investment coming into the economies because of that seamlessness if it's enabled. But it also challenges what it means for how we agglomerate, accumulate, and spend that investment, where the investment comes from building out not only the networks, but all of the bits of the ecosystem. And I'll spend a few minutes just running through that. And all of this is driven by cross-border data flows. Between the famous study that people like to cite, you'll all have seen this picture multiple different times, between 2006 and 2014, cross-border data flows went up some 45 times. In the same period that trade in goods was flat, and trade in services went up approximately 8 times. So we're seeing the importance of data and digital. We're seeing how profound that is on economic growth and on development and on trade. The projection was made by McKinsey at the same time that it would go up another 9 times between 2015 and 2021, and as of 2018, that is already surpassed. So the numbers, as we see, keep being conservative. The importance of enabling these cross-border data flows to drive e-commerce and digitalisation are fundamental. So e-commerce is, of course, underpinned by cross-border data flows. What is e-commerce, therefore, when you look at PowerPoints like this, and you all see them endlessly? Well, e-commerce, communications technologies and infrastructure, that network that I keep referring to. It's also the payments and the transactions enablement, being able to pay for those goods or services that you are acquiring, consuming, or using. It's the identity authentication, who you are when you buy, purchase, use those goods or services. It's the validation of receiving goods and services and the support that needs to go into the consumption and use and reception of those goods and services. And it's the consumer protection and security, and then fundamentally and most importantly, to get that whole cycle working, it's the recourse, the consumer recourse and government recourse to protect the citizenry so that we build the picture out. That's e-commerce. But in the delivery and consumption of this commerce, these services, something interesting is happening. What are these businesses? At this point in time, the largest international voice traffic provider owns no network. The fastest growing television network in the world lays no cables. The most watched video sharing portal creates no video content effectively. The most popular media provider creates no content. The most valuable retailer has no inventory. The largest taxi company in the world owns no vehicles, and so on and on. We've seen this growing out, and you have multiple different examples of this. Interestingly, none of these companies existed 20 years ago. Very few of them existed more than 12 years ago. It's happening and changing fast. Oops. So what are these companies? They're across all of these debates. The taxi company is a taxi company without owning taxis. The TV company is a TV company without owning cables. If a video company does not make video content, if a telecommunications carrier, the largest international carrier of minutes in the world, does not actually have to own that traffic when it delivers it. What are they? How do we understand them? How do we regulate them? How do we look at them? Well, I'll tell you what they're not. They're not solely American or Chinese. They're not only a few. There are a lot of them, both at the local and the regional level, as well as the global ones that we focus on all the time, the Amazons, the Alibabas, the Facebooks, and so on. They're not undefeatable. They're not disintermediatable. Anyone remember Nokia? BlackBerry? Anyone heard of MySpace? You see these companies around anymore, they can still disappear fast. Now, this isn't meant to be dismissive about the larger companies. There are some important questions that we'll come to and that we need to look at. Issues of competition, issues of ownership, issues of registration and participation. These are important questions that we need to start coming up with some new rules and adapting existing frameworks for if we are to see e-commerce and digital economy development progress in the way it has been. And in contrast to what you will hear from most other speakers, I've become a skeptic in this. I think we are now hitting constraints. I think we are seeing fragmentation, and we are now seeing really strong blocks of headwinds in the development of e-commerce because of the blocks on cross-border data flows and because of the blocks on rolling these networks out across our economies and because of the regulatory restrictions we are placing on, in particular, SMEs. So I am concerned. So I do not want these questions dismissed. I think they are important questions. But it does behoove us to dig into what these companies are. And we've got lots of good local examples to make the point that these aren't just the big players. In our region, we have lots and lots of startups emerging and seeing unbelievable success. Gojek. Who knows Gojek? Okay. Debbie knows everything that I'm going to say today, so her hand doesn't count. Who else? Really? No one heard of Gojek in Indonesia? Okay. Who's heard of Uber? Good. Okay. So when Gojek launched, Gojek was seen as the Uber of Indonesia. A company that would use the motorbike rides to facilitate in the same way Uber had. Except Gojek is not now a taxi company or a motorbike ride-sharing company anymore. Gojek is go massage, go glam to get your nails done, go massage, go pay, go food, go beauty services, go logistics, go, if you pull up, and I can't keep up with them, if you pull up the website each other week, there'll be a new one that they've launched. What do you call a company like that? The middle one, Jab School. Jab School is a phenomenal success story in Vietnam right now of an education provider. You all know these MOOCs, these massive online companies that allow you to access lectures from Stanford or Harvard and take online university courses or other education courses, the equivalent of TED Talks. JAP, like a number of startups in various economies, recognised that there would be a hunger for these kind of services in their country, but the people needed to be able to take it in their own language. And once you localise the language, people will have questions like they do in class. And so you would offer support services in the local language with some further support. And so JAP grew. In Malaysia, there's an equivalent to JAP School that has decided that people like me might be their audience. You know, people with very short concentration spans, people with shorter concentration spans than 15 minutes. They provide bite-sized services so that when you're in the traffic, you can take a course. 5-minute courses. They have 30 and 90-second courses you can take when you're on the train. And these things are going gangbusters. And this shows the strength of localizing these bigger opportunities that are emerging globally and bringing them into market, as long as the network infrastructure is there and the enablement to accumulate and agglomerate the national or domestic level of demand and then begin to grow outwards, which brings us to a company like iFlix. You've all heard of Netflix, yes? Yes? Okay. Anyone have a Netflix subscription account? Good. Does anyone tell me how much a Netflix subscription is for you? I asked this question the other day in an Apec negotiation session, and the person who I picked on, who had her hand up, and I said, oh, that's terrific, you've got a Netflix account, how much do you pay? And she went bright red. She said, I don't pay anything. I sort of get it illegally. Am I allowed to say that in here? I do it on my VPN and I don't pay for any of it. It's a safe environment. I think we're under the Chatham House rules, yes? Sort of? Sort of? It's live streamed, okay. So anyone who's about to fess up to me that they've got a Netflix account, just think twice before you. There you go. How much do you pay a month? $5 a month. Anyone know how much an iFlix account costs? $3.99, sort of, in Malaysia. I think it's $2.95 in Thailand at the moment. Obvious, right? You're going to play to a local market. Netflix is out there. Netflix has got a good market going. We're going to come in and undercut Netflix and add some competition. We will, of course, do the other natural thing for a local to play it. We've got a lot more local content. We will go out there and start funding local content, because I will come back to the importance of the content in all of this, whether you're e-commerce or social media or IoT enablement. It is the content that tends to drive this, and I'll get back to this in a minute. So the two-sided market drives e-commerce. It drives these digital platforms. We can always come back to this if you have questions. But I want to make 2 points. Firstly, the most important bit of that slide is not the pretty graphic in the middle and all the stuff about the digital two-sided markets, and you'll do that out tonight. The most important part is the word potential. We all talk about just how quickly this digital economy is moving. We show big numbers. We say the big opportunity. But digital transformation, e-commerce enablement, is not a given in the way we talk about it for everyone. It's a potential. More than likely, without getting some of this stuff right, we will see iterative growth. It will be iterative, step-by-step growth. We actually have to take some brave steps forward as a community. Policymakers and regulators on the one hand, entrepreneurs and startups on the other, civil society enablers on the third leg of that stool. If we are to see transformative growth, it's potential. Otherwise, the other important aspect are the numbers on the bottom in red. So we started with the numbers that were coming out of the consultancies. You'll see those in black. The numbers that suggest a 90 billion e-commerce market. Oops. A 19 billion e-commerce market by 2025, up from 15 or so billion in 2016. Of course, other consultancies then come out and see the market. I think this was a Google Temasek study as being a 200 billion market. The issue where these projections are coming from is taking what exists now and scaling it forward. And these numbers are based on the existing numbers of people on the platforms right now. But look at those numbers in black beside, if you can focus there. If we begin to get the networks out by 2025, you have an extra 250 million people on the market by simply enabling what we see as the mobile connectivity enabled at a level which processes basic transactions, enables inclusivity. And then you begin to see things like $11 billion increase in productivity, 1.5 time increase in productivity, $11 billion increase in ASEAN economies through capture of leakage. Indonesia's a good example. These numbers, I'll get to the Indonesia example in a second, these numbers I will continue to state are conservative. And they beg the question as we look at this, because as you will see from charts like this, we're still accumulating each of the individual ASEAN member states or individual markets. What is an ASEAN e-commerce market? Because if we're going to talk an ASEAN market in the way that we're talking about things like e-commerce or IoT, then the seamlessness of the cross-border, not only data flows, but transaction flows, enablement and logistics become fundamentally important. We need to look at this as something akin to a common market, whereby the flow of these goods and services can be recognised as seamlessly as possible. The numbers, by and large, based on existing connectivity and growth, but the potential and the challenge remains far bigger. One of the points that Dr. Pichet made was the need to target not enabling digital divide. Again, I'm going to become more of the skeptic. That digital divide is there and it is growing. In an age of increased connectivity, our digital divide, both within member states or member economies and between and within, is now growing and growing rapidly. In an age of digital enablement and empowerment, if people are not growing up digitally native, if they are not able to get online and buy or trade goods, services without fear, if they are not learning on these networks, if they are not accessing health services, whether it's just to make appointments or process a payment, if this is a fearful exercise for them, then the gap between what is needed half a generation away, we are falling further and further behind, and the skill set enablement for all of the things that Dr. Pichet was pointing to, IoT and supply side development, we are going to miss that step. Right now, we have people in cities who are growing up where digital usage is second nature, and we have people in rural and remote villages who it is not. And when it is, we are still at the level of talking about things like social media and chat, and not things like education and farming and so on. So let's run through a few of those quickly. In terms of connectivity, Asia Pacific is already the biggest internet market, but in terms of those points and why those numbers are conservative, there are still an amazing number of people who are not on the network, are not connected, and not being brought online. More importantly, or at least as importantly, where they are connected, we have issues around quality of service. The speed at which people can get online in many of our economies, particularly outside of the city, is terrible. And even more importantly than that is the affordability of the access, making sure it is as affordable as possible. This brings us back to some interesting questions which I'll try to dive into in a few minutes, of what we need to look at to get those networks enabled and rolled out there. The Indonesia example. One of the most exciting, dynamic, e-commerce markets in the region, growing fundamentally and furiously, and yet we still have a very small number of people connected for e-commerce. We have, I think Dr. Pichet's number of penetration in Thailand was 150% approximately. Indonesia, the numbers between mobile connectivity or mobile accounts, which is what's being cited there, is a little bit lower than that, but it still suggests something akin to 100%. But once we begin looking down below that bare level connectivity as to what people are enabled to do over a reliable, robust, affordable network, that they trust to trade and sell and buy, that they trust to do things like even watch videos and pay for those videos, becomes highly questionable. When you look at it in those lights of what stands on the table to be delivered if we can get people on the network, almost all of our ASEAN and APEC markets still have extensive reasons to grow. And what this means is that we are looking far beyond retail. E-commerce is not simply retail. We are seeing the potential for enablement across the region. We start in Indonesia, the ability to add an additional minimum 3.7 million jobs by 2025, 80% higher growth in revenue for SMEs, an additional 2% per annum in GDP growth. Vietnam sees the creation of an additional 140,000 jobs by 2020 simply on enabling this connectivity. mobile internet contributing 5.1 billion by 2020. Japan sees a boost of 33 trillion yen 2020 if it can access next generation services for e-commerce. Alright, so if we are to get this right and enable e-commerce writ large, let's take a step back at the bigger picture. So as to enable e-commerce more broadly, how do we make a digital economy? Three things are fundamentally required. If you work up from the bottom of this slide, going up, interconnectivity, interoperability, multimodal access. What do I mean by that? Interconnectivity is the base requirement for an e-commerce and digital economy and fourth industrial revolution, etc., market. All of our networks need to connect. People think that's a dumb thing for some reason. They particularly focus on the telecommunications networks, the telecommunications world. Even our telecommunications networks aren't yet fully interconnected by a long way. But think of this in terms of what we are really talking about in both e-commerce and digital economy development. School systems, school networks have their own networks that don't interconnect. Hospital systems, particularly in rural areas, are not always on the network and do not interconnect. If we are talking about a virtuous cycle being enabled, all of these networks interconnect. And that, given where we've come to over the last 30 years, is potentially the easy part. Interoperability, meaning that the stuff that goes over those networks, the applications and services that we are consuming and exchanging need to be able to talk to each other if we are to build that virtuous cycle. And everybody who has one of those devices needs to be able to see everybody else and trade with their applications to everybody else, no matter where they are or what network they're coming in from. We have very little real interoperability across our economies or between our economies, and if there is one policy-making step that needs to happen, that is it. In parallel to interconnectivity, interoperability, multimodal access is the need for recognising cross-sectoral enablement, cross-jurisdictional transfers, and multi-identity authentication. They work almost in parallel with the first level. Let's get past this. You've heard this, we will talk about it endlessly through 2 days. Oops. And I assume you have access to the slides at some point if you don't already. So building a virtuous cycle. Let me just run through these steps and then I might pause for a minute. Virtuous cycle is based on the access to good and interesting content. That is the first step that needs to be recognised. People will use their devices because of something they feel comfortable or compelled to do. Once we see that demand coming through, the demand gets registered as a need to build the access to that content because there's money in that opportunity, and so we roll the networks out, we increase the robustness and the speed and the access of those networks. That networks requires further investment. People see an opportunity to make money from the need for further investment. They provide better services. The services require better infrastructure. The infrastructure leads to more demand, and on and on. We see this cycle playing out time and time again. I think you'll see a reference at the bottom of the slide to the studies that have been done. They are there, you can go and look at them. We have enough empirical evidence for this. This leads to substantially increased investment, particularly by private sector players. What we are seeing is the emergence of the Googles and the Facebooks investing into our fundamental infrastructure and rolling it out to the communities that to date have not been accessed, the communities seen as uneconomic. This will raise a question that's worth coming back to, of what we define therefore as critical national infrastructure. If we have IoT networks with all of this data, if these networks that are rolled out by private sector investment or public-private sector partnerships are doing things like controlling payments and transactions flows, and important secure information, how do we define what is critical national infrastructure? Social media, that thing that we all make fun of with people wasting their time frivolously and flippantly on sending pictures of cats and dogs, of pictures of people bent over, of flowers and pretty sunsets. Social media consumption leads to video. Video is a bandwidth hog, but oh so compelling in terms of people getting online and watching TV shows, YouTube clips, sports events, funny videos. This leads to two things. E-commerce, on the one hand, as people begin to use that consumption they are now doing and feeling comfortable with, to buy and sell, to promote, to market, to get supply side enablement, and to e-government services. They begin to migrate from watching YouTube clips for funny, titillating, entertainment distractions to recognizing that they can learn how to play a guitar, fix a car, change a light bulb, update their software programs on a computer or a laptop, or, for many folk, the information system that they're running for their company, their house, their school, their hospital. And as they watch those clips, they begin to bring everyone else in, and pretty soon people are displaying those clips in schools and using that for education purposes. People start running training mechanisms along the same thing. This virtuous cycle fundamentally recognizes the seamlessness of content access. If we block that, we start inhibiting the flow of opportunity that leads to e-commerce and digital economy development. So that fundamental enabling use of Netflix videos, iFlix videos, YouTube clips takes us to e-commerce. E-health, e-education, e-government, e-wallets, e-finance, e-agriculture, e-aquaculture, and so on and so forth. That step needs to be recognised, and as you talk about e-commerce and as you look at entrepreneurial opportunities, keep in mind that we are so far beyond retail and SME in the retail or service-related sectors, and we are talking about the entire economy and that enablement fundamental. We've seen the innovation in e-health, Vietnam, e-commerce, Thailand, e-government, Singapore. Thailand, e-commerce, as you know, and you all know Line, I assume, set to grow to $123 billion by 2020, 50% plus e-growth, 50% plus growth in e-commerce on mobile. Thailand is the largest social commerce market in the world. 51% of online shoppers purchase direct from social media. See the connection I'm trying to draw here? See why I find Dr. Pichet's words so important? See why following that connectivity stream through e-commerce out to the villages, making sure that we get them on the network, that we get Thai posts following up with the logistics, that we make sure that we enable the social platforms who will help drive the commerce, because that's where people congregate online and feel comfortable to help drive the economic opportunities across the country. C2C social commerce, you know, enabled by Instagram, Facebook, Line, contributes a third of total Thai e-commerce gross merchandise value, already and growing rapidly. Singapore, often shown as one of the best places to do business. New businesses are often required to seek multiple approvals and licenses. It gets more and more true the further out we go around ASEAN and APEC. To start a public entertainment business in Singapore requires a minimum of 7 licenses. Use of premises licenses, food, hygiene, liquor, fire safety tax, and so on. And this is something that over the last 2 years, 2.5 years, the Singapore government has got adamant about addressing and simplifying and streamlining with one-stop shops, such as you'll see in here, and is focused on delivering more than 300 mobile services so that people can take care of those licenses through one-stop shops, wherever they are, on the move, that then interoperably register across the various agencies. That recognition happens once and can get the multiple recognitions required, which brings us to how we build a digital economy. the top-down enablement, the frameworking, we now see to be fundamentally important. Setting targets and having the political will at the top of the tree to coordinate across all of the agencies. And we see the digital economy plans rolling out country by country by country, which is good. People are recognising the top-down framework is a starting point, a good place to recognise cross-sectoral enablement. If it doesn't happen, stops digital economy and e-commerce growth, and the coordinating mechanism across our agencies fundamentally important. The second aspect of these digital economy plans where we see success is being clear on what success looks like. When do you know you are hitting success in delivering these plans? Because this takes the political will, and there are huge opportunity costs in directing resources towards digital economy development at the expense of building a school, building a bank, building a brick and mortar hospital, and sooner or later you will run into criticisms, probably very fast. So be clear on what success looks like and target some easy wins so that we can build the momentum for the investment and resource allocation required. If we take a few examples, Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam. Interesting to see how these plans and development are playing out differently across such close neighbours, such close economies. Malaysia, seen as successful in terms of digital economy development over the last several years, now thinks that it has about 18.9% GDP delivered by digital, has rolled out its digital free trade zone, DFTZ, is working on a trusted data zone that will have a new model for data to come in and out of Malaysia. It's fundamentally focused on e-commerce enablement, they state, but has, to go back to this point, limitations on that cross-sectoral alignment. With a lack of federal model, the ability to align across their various agencies is running into constant blocks. So those licenses, those registrations for SMEs, enterprises, businesses are not streamlining or speeding up. And when we get to important issues like data protection and data privacy, how you coordinate a law enforcement agency's ability to have the right to access data in a new model is fundamentally under question. And so we are struggling with having, I can't see from there, you know that, right? That's a long way away. Are you saying I've got an hour and a half left? Thailand. Thailand has gone as an exaggerated, accelerated version of Malaysia in many ways. The plan, which Dr. Boucher referred to and moved past, is amazing, extraordinarily comprehensive, builds in, at least on the plan level, that cross-sectoral enablement. Ministry of Digital Economy, starting up and recognising the importance of digital economy and pushing for that cross-sectoral enablement. The issue that we have, and that I keep asking, and as some of you in the room know, and the bit that we're working on the plans for, is what implementation looks like. Execution of all of these plans and across various cross-sectoral enablement. And that looks to be quite a challenge at the moment. And the Ministry of Digital Economy, of course, is a new ministry. How you bolster up its political ability to see some of these more contentious issues through. Vietnam, benefiting from massive organic growth, a hugely mobile savvy nation, very young, and we're seeing terrific elements of startups coming through. But that legacy infrastructure from the top, that legacy regulatory framework that would allow the growth of that e-commerce driven digital economy momentum at the bottom has a lot of questions to it. So the approaches differ, and yet we see commonalities through the frameworks that success is showing models of. Seamless data flows, interconnectivity and interoperability, coordinating mechanisms, identifying targets and targeted delivery, looking for easy wins and early wins to develop a virtuous cycle, and moving our economies from supply-side enablement to demand-driven responsiveness. That comes through time and time again, whether you're looking at Estonia and Norway, the US and Australia, Thailand and Malaysia. Those success features seem consistent throughout. So if this is what it takes to create the environment, and if this is what the potential is, what are the challenges? You said 5 minutes, right? Watch this. Infrastructure. Access. Consistency and affordability. Network management and consistency. Making sure that we have free, fair, neutral access to distribution points. It will happen time and again in telecommunications, in communications, CDNs, payments, gateways, for example. And the list will go on and on. We're about to see hubs of logistics need to be opened up in the same way. Payments. Fast payments. What is a payment system that would... I'm finishing, trust me. Open and interoperable networks in the banking system and the financial services system. What is low manageable gateways? What are the objectives in delivering a financial system that is equally accessible? Logistics, customs, trust. We have all of these challenges to address. Trust, when we were drawing up the digital economy principles for APEC, we drew them all up. We had the list going from communications all the way through, and we went to deliver it to the leadership, the SOM leadership, and we suddenly thought, you know what we forgot? Customer protection, consumer protection. We haven't built, if you have these networks and all of this e-commerce opportunity, where is the recourse ability? And then we have competition. Your competition frameworks are going to be fundamentally challenged in every single economy over the next 2 months. The regulatory frameworks, our regulators need to change. From being policemen to being market enablers, from being policemen or cops, police women, to referees. It's a whole mindset change that we have to go through. And then we need alignment across our markets. I told you this was 2 hours. Let me click through some of the issues that I don't want to waste any time on. But you see what we need to encompass. If we don't get this right, what's at stake? We've heard about, and you will continue to hear about, all the opportunities that stand to be garnered. So what's at stake? GDP growth, investment, technology transfer, access to new tools, innovation, enhanced connectivity. And this is true for both traditional and non-traditional opportunities. It's true for large and small. SMEs, which you will focus on, I hope and trust, stand to benefit disproportionately. They also stand to be penalised disproportionately when we get this wrong. The costs of compliance, which are already going up, increase dramatically for SMEs. We need to ensure access. We need to ensure coordinated policy and cross-sectoral enablement. We need to ensure more flexible regulatory frameworks which are adjustable and responsive. We need to target key sectors, and we need to start developing the skill sets for the next generation to be digitally savvy and able to move between these sectors. I'm done.
My sincere apologies, Dr. Lovelock. I wish I could give you 2 hours. Seems like there's
Oh, you don't want to listen to me for 2 hours. I
do, I sort of do. But given how quickly you went through the challenges, I guess you're implicitly saying that they can be overcome, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
We have the frameworks for overcoming.
Okay, all right. So as I said earlier, there will be questions, right, at the end of each session. So we have time for 2 questions from the floor. So please, anyone. Or okay, go ahead.
Hi, Peter. How about the bancarization issue is mentioned? Where the
How about the
bancarization, that the people can get access for a credit card or get access for a bank account? For example, in Mexico, where the place where I came from, it's almost 60% of the people, they don't have access to a bank account. And it's a very important, it's the key to get access for the e-commerce. So what do you think about that here in Asia?
no and yes? Yes, you're right, of course, but not for bank accounts. So we have a basic problem in e-commerce. E-commerce, what is e-commerce? E-commerce is the development of the communications framework with the payment system. If people can't pay, we have a problem with e-commerce. That is fundamentally required. But here's the problem we have in rolling that access out. Banks hate poor people. Piyush Gupta, head of TBS Bank, who I'm on the board of a company with, will not get up on stage with me anymore because I say that line too often. And he always argues with it. Banks do not like poor people. So to your point, we need to move beyond the idea that payments need to resolve or devolve into a bank account. We have enough alternatives of C2C payments of one sort or another. We need the frameworks to enable those. In Thailand, which has over the last, I want to say 2 years, guys, focused on driving mobile money and financial enablement out, the focus has been far more on development of new payment technologies such as QR codes, which are attached to this big and growing e-commerce opportunity, so that the merchants themselves are able to drive payments over the communications networks. And one of the revolution, we were running a payments workshop for ASEAN about 2 weeks ago, and we had the gentleman from ProgPay there next to his colleagues from the financial sector regulators with him. This was all an e-commerce workshop. And he ran through, because I asked him to the success story of ProgPay in Thailand, and he finished. And he missed the important part. I turned to him and I said, maybe you could just tell people how much it costs to make a transaction in Thailand if the transaction is less than 5,000 baht. You guys know, yes? How much it costs?
0.
Thank you. 0. 0. And the growth has been phenomenal. Not only the registration of accounts, but the usage of these accounts. If it costs nothing to make that transaction, and it is on a platform that the banks back, that has a degree of trust to it, we see phenomenal uptake. So yes, I agree, and that example does devolve to the banks in this case, but we have enough examples that go beyond that. So yes, the access to the payments mechanism is fundamentally important. Again, the need to take a top-down approach with some of these startups. I skimmed very quickly across those financial regulatory sandboxes that are in there. These models are interesting in providing a way of looking at new solutions that the regulators can get comfortable with, that enable things that banks would not be comfortable with in the first instance, that are providing inclusiveness. We need to start looking at some of these models in the way we enable them at scale.
Okay, we have another question from the floor.
Hi, my name is Rita from Beijing. In my country, we have so much cash system. We don't give the credit cards or so. And 9.9% of the people give cash. So I was thinking about this story about local Indonesia.
Yep.
It's a big economy.
Yep.
So I think they are very powerful if I was to have this
So I have a solution for you. It's called ID Box. It's a blockchain-based, solar power-enabled identity authentication tool, which comes about yay big, We can stick it in one village, it enables villages around it. People can come in and they can use this because not only do you have limitations on credit card access, but there are problems with the connectivity still, although we're improving that one, and electricity. So we're working with the Central Bank of Papua New Guinea on a solution. You set me up for this, didn't you? You knew this was coming. We have a solution that allows identity authentication on a blockchain system. So therefore, we are getting around some of the other normal traditional constraints in the system to roll this out based on a 2G network, so we can do it over SMS connectivity. We authenticate people and give them a unique identity. We then align them with an account. Yes, great if it's a bank account, but with Digicel and other comms providers coming on, it can be a mobile wallet that, because it is individually authenticated and put against a register that the bank will sign off on, we can now enable those payments to go through, which means people can start ordering supply. We think this works. But the point isn't whether this one works or not. To your question, which is a great question, the point is finding some of these examples and allowing them to see if we can generate scale enough that it would bring in the necessary investment to get these things out across the economy. We need to take the successes around digital scale that will enable the investment to come into economies like Mexico and Papua New Guinea, that we can start looking at national solutions that enable that without shooting ourselves in the foot when it comes to competition policies.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Peter Lovelock.
They're saying shut up and get off.
All right. You really lead magic globally. Okay, so yeah, give him a round of applause. So now we'll take a really short 10-minute break. I'm sorry, so short. We have a lot to go through. So if you can take your 10-minute break and reconvene back here at 11:20 to hear from two of Thailand's leading and young businessmen, that would be great. So 11:30. Thank you. Sorry, 11:20. 11:20. All right, so welcome back, everyone. So for the next session, we are very proud to have two nationally renowned entrepreneurs who will be presenting about their own personal e-commerce stories. The first speaker is a household name to many. He is Kun Pravut Pongvityapanut. Nicknamed Thailand's internet icon and pioneer, Mr. Pravut currently serves as the CEO of Tarat.com, which he also founded at the turn of the millennium, and the president of the Thai E-commerce Association. He has accumulated his professional experience since 1998 and delivers consulting and lecturing services to public, private, government organizations and institutions all over the country and overseas. Today, he is a well-known speaker and expert on e-commerce and technology-related matters, and an investor in many exciting startups. He is also the founder of the Thai E-Payment Association and the Thai E-Logistics Association. He's a person who, in all honesty, needs little to no introduction. So would you please join me in welcoming onto the stage Mr. Pravut. Give a round of applause, please. Let me now turn to introducing our second speaker, Mr. Ravit Pan Usaha. Mr. Ravit is currently the CEO of his family company, Srijan United Dispensary. He has an interesting story because he is renowned for transforming Srijan, which his grandfather founded, from a rather aging company to a modern and tech-savvy 21st century cosmetic company. His efforts at Srijan have been recognized by many Thai SME awards, such as SME Thailand Innovation Award, the Marie Claire Best Beauty 2015 Award, and the Clio Beauty Hall of Fame Award. In addition to Srijan, Mr. Ravit is also a best-selling author and is currently working on his fourth book, I believe. It is my pleasure to invite Mr. Ravit onto the stage. So, out of these two, I would first like to introduce Mr. Pravut to give his presentation. Go ahead. Or Kun Ravit, I'm sorry. Kun Ravit. Kun Ravit can go first. We're flexible.
Hi. Sorry, we have a little bit of misunderstanding. Listening to you a little bit. Today I only have 30 minutes, so I'll try to talk about what I think is the most important part of my job, which is trying to find what the customers want. It's actually, I think it's like, I spend maybe 6% of my time doing this. So I want to share with you today, the process and the thinking behind it. Okay? So we have, the word research has been evolved a lot in the past, say 10 years. Right? So we have heard a lot of cool names like design thinking, sprint, or maybe you're going to have something new next year. But what is the core essence of this? I think it's the 3 things they want to know about the customers: the mindset of the customers, the behavior, and the environment. In a nutshell, I think what we're trying to do is that when we introduce the new product and services, we're trying to change the way we process the introduction of it, right? So the old way, try to kind of imagine this in your head. The old way, before we introducing the product or services, we normally start in the meeting room, okay? So we have this top executives, C-level executives, and then we have sales department, marketing, R&D, so on and so forth. And then somebody's in the room said, we have this very cool technology, or we have this very cool raw material, we have this very cool idea, whatever it is, that will kind of shock the market, right? So the executive said, "Oh, hey, sounds great, right? So go write a business plan." So and then start doing whatever you said. Most of, in my experience, this kind of product, and I did it a lot in the past, it's almost always gonna fail, or at least not performing very well, right? I call this thing product development process. So you kind of start with the product or the service that you want to do. The new way, which much better, is that you're trying to start with the client, the customers. Maybe if you want to do a new cosmetics line, we have a prototype, go test with them, ask them whether they like it or not, and then come back again, and then, redo the prototype, go back and forth, Maybe you need to do it like 10 times before it sounds even like ready for the market. And then, try to launch it in the smaller scale first, and then, going bigger and bigger. I found that this way, the success rate is much higher. I call this way customer development, because you start from the customer first, right? So, if you are a startup, and there's something similar to this, it's like a build, measure, learn thing as well. So, I don't do startups way, so but I think it's a similar concept, right? Now, talking about the word research, we have the traditional one, like qualitative, quantitative research, and we have the newer one, like going to social media and swoop our data, and we actually use both at the moment. But no matter what we use, it's kind of come down to three main things. The first one is to observe the client. Right? I'm trying to make this as clear as possible. Okay, so let's say you have a clothing stores, right, which is unisex. So you have both male and female clothes, and you have this camera in the store. This is a smart camera. It collects data. It tells you whether this customer is a male or female, and it collects the distance that this particular customer has walked around your stores. So the longer they walk in your stores, the better, right? Okay, now most of the male clients say they want a pink shirt, right? So the pink shirt is on that side of the stores. They come in, they go pick the pink shirt, and then they pay. So that's the normal kind of behavior. Now, for the female client, most of them will come in, kind of browsing around first, and then go pick the pink shirt and then pay. Now, if say the female, of our lady clients had an average walking distance of 300 meters, the client that comes with a friend, which is also a lady, will walk much longer, say 1,000 meters. So with this information, what you should do is that do a huge referral program, right, to bring their client in. Now, there's one particular observation that you have from this kind of study. You find out that there's one person that this lady customer that comes with will walk much shorter if she comes with this particular person, which is her boyfriend or her husband, right? So how can you fix this? It's not that difficult. You actually have to put a lot of chairs in front of the stores, because when they kind of have this kind of automatic radar to kind of scan the chairs, and then when you see they sit down and they play their phone, so that girlfriend can go shopping more, and then you can increase the walking distance. This has actually been done in a lot of stores, and it improves kind of experience and the time you spend in the stores. This is one of the kind of observation thing that you can do, but you can also do this online as well, of course. The interview part is also the one that we use a lot. We can do it as a group or as one-on-one, or there's a lot of methods of doing an interview. The interesting thing about interviews is that you need to really dig in to find what they really want, which is a very difficult process because most people don't really answer what they actually did. They might do that intentionally or not intentionally. Like, for example, if people ask me whether, what kind of food do I normally eat? I'm on a diet right now, so I would answer that I normally eat clean food. So my food would consist of salad, chicken breast, and fish. That's what I think, or at least that's I remember. This is how the brain plays tricks with you. What I actually did is that yesterday, I walked past my staff, and they have like this Krispy Kreme box. And I said to myself, I haven't had donut for like ages, so one donut couldn't hurt my diet. The day before that is a brownie, and the day before that is whatever you put that. So, but this information is kind of like you don't register it in your brain at all, and you actually answer it with, you didn't try to lie or anything. It just didn't come out. into it. So the only way that we can dig this out is the process that we like to call it called like series of why questions. So you have to like ask why on the same particular topic until you kind of get the sense of what really is the thing that your potential client is looking for. Okay. Now this is a very famous example. It's been taught at Stanford, and all the design thinking classes I've been through will take this example, to be that's like kind of the ice-breaking thing. So I'm gonna rerun this again. I like this very much. Say you are a marketer, and then your only job is to try to satisfy your customer needs, right? You walk around the bank of the river, and you see one guy just looking right towards the river, and so you walk to him and you say, what are you doing? And this guy said, oh, I think that if there's a bridge here, I would be very appreciative if there's a bridge built here. And you say, oh, no problem. I'm here to grant you a wish. So what kind of bridge do you want? Like suspension bridge, we have like a metal bridge, we have like a wood bridge, we can do a lot of bridges. And he said, okay, let's do a suspension bridge. So is that a good thing that we build him a bridge? Well, 80% of companies in this world did just that, ask the client what they want and give the client exactly what the client answered. Well, they're doing pretty much okay in some way, not okay in some way, but if you are a little bit more curious, you would ask this guy, why do you want a bridge? And he said, oh, I want to go to the other side. And you would answer that, to go to the other side, you have a lot of options. You can swim, you can dig a tunnel, you can use a boat, or which is like one solution as well. So what do you really want? This guy came and said, interesting. I don't want a bridge anymore. I want a boat. And you said, okay, we have all kinds of what we have a yacht, we have a rowboat, we have a steamboat, a cruise, or all kinds of stuff. What do you want? He said, okay, I'm gonna go with the rowboat thing. You can also go with the color of the boat, but that's like off the topic. Now, I think maybe like 10% of the business doing this, and they're doing very well because they actually knows deeper what their customers really want. But if you really want to survive in this environment and then to maybe disrupt the market as well, you need to ask one further question. You can ask why this guy wants to go to the other side. So you ask, why do you want to go to the other side? He said, oh, I'm lonely. I want to go to see my girlfriend. She's on the other side, right? So you kind of repeat the question, right? So you're lonely, you want to go to the other side to see your girlfriend. So how about the solution that if you're lonely and you find a new girlfriend on this side, would that fix your problem? And he said, that sounds good. So what kind of solution do you have for me, right? And you said, oh, so simple, thank God. We have a dating app for you, and you're like good-looking guy. You should be able to find a new girlfriend within 2 weeks. You just download the app on your phone. Done. You don't need to build a bridge. You don't need to row a boat into this huge river. Right? Now that sounds funny to you, right? But let's think about the example. Let's think about this for a little while. Right? Before Airbnb was born, is there anyone saying that, okay, I want to go to Tokyo and then maybe I want to bring this guy up, a random guy in Tokyo who owns an apartment in Shinjuku I think that's, I want to rent his bedroom. Nobody does that, right? Because we only think about hotels, and that's the bridge. And then we have Capsule Hotel, we have 7 Stars Hotel, that's the boat, the swimming, all those stuff. But the big question here is that, do we really need a hotel? And that's when Airbnb was born, and the rest is history. Now, this way of thinking sounds difficult, and I think it's needs a lot of practice, but it happens everywhere. And today I'm going to bring you into a lot of examples about that. Okay? The other one is kind of another funny story. I like this one very much. It's a train. It's a Eurostar. So it goes from London to Paris. Normally it takes 3.5 hours. That's before they do the renovation. And then one day, the top management of Eurostars kind of like to do the customer survey. They don't normally do this, but they did at the end. And they found out that the points is very low. Say they got 2 out of 10. So, this is a big deal. So they have this huge meeting, and that meeting, they try to solve this problem. How do you make a trip to Paris better? So this is like a big question they want to do. So there's a lot of ideas throwing around, but eventually they said, we are a high-speed train. So in order to make a trip to Paris better, we have to increase the speed of our train. Sounds logical, right? And they actually did. They changed the rail, and it's, I think they spent like £6 billion to change the rail. And after that, changing the rail, the train goes faster for 40 minutes. So it's go from 3.5 hours to 2 hours and 50 minutes, right? So a little bit of improvement. And I said, yeah, this sounds good, right? Our customers should be delightful. No, it didn't happen, right? A couple of years from that point, they do a survey again. The point's still like 2 out of 10. So nothing improved. So, but they don't have any budget to do anything anymore. But there's this guy called Robert Sutherland, which is like a top, like an advertising guy, marketing guy in UK. He came out on TED Talk and he said that if I were, the Eurostar management, this is what he was going to do. First, he's going to let a train run for 3.5 hours, not doing nothing with them. Second of all, he's going to hire top models, both men and women, from all around the world, to serving non-stop champagne on this particular train, right? So you can drink like 5 bottles if you can hold down that much champagne. Now, in this past 20 years, we're going to spend around £1.8 billion. So that's 1/3 of the money you spend on the change of the rail. And the customers will ask the train to slow down, not going faster. So I think that's kind of making a point. Come to my one of my favorite analogy. You probably heard of this one. When people said that the elevator is slow, the first thing you should try to do is that put in the mirror out there, outside the elevator. The reason is because we, as a human, really like to see our face. It's like the most beautiful face on earth for us, right? So we cannot help ourselves to do something with it. And when we start doing something like adjusting our time and stuff, the times kind of goes by. The elevator is not so slow anymore. This is called framing of the question or the problem. So this guy, I think he's Harvard professor, he said back in the days that nobody wants a screwdriver. They want a 1/4 inch hole. So be careful what you actually offer to your client, to your customers. This is what I call circumstances or a job to be fixed. So yeah, the trend is good, technology is good, actually is good, important, of course. But I think the circumstances is actually what kind of a killer or a kick here, right? So let's go see one example. Now, there's a big multinational fast food chain in US. It sells a lot of stuff, but one of the items that is not selling very well is a milkshake. So they're trying to increase the sales. So they try a lot of stuff like advertising, not going so well. They're doing a lot of flavors, not very well. So they tried a new approach. Instead of trying to sell more milkshake, they asked this question: what job I'm trying to do for my client? So they go talk to the people who already buy milkshake, and they find out that most of the people who buy milkshake bought in the morning. Right? Maybe 60% of the sales comes in the morning. So they ask, why do you buy a milkshake? He said, I don't really particularly want to buy a milkshake, but it actually serves a lot of job, right? First of all, because I'm driving, I need to handle this with one hand without making a huge mess in my car. Right? So milkshake kind of fit that job. Second of all, it has to be like fill my stomach up enough to the point that I survive to my next break or lunch, right? Next point, I hate the traffic. It's like horrible. I need enjoyment. So if I like suck all the milkshake like at once, that's not good. I need the cleaning, like I like the cleaning moment of the milkshake in my mouth. And it has to be easy to buy because I'm on a rush this morning. So what I actually did is that with all this in mind, they increased the texture of the milkshake, right? So make it denser and put a huge chunk of fruit in there. The objective of this is that try to when you drink this, you make you drink slower because it's like stuck in your straw. If you it's the same as the bubble tea, right? The bubble tea was a huge bubble, so I think it's like pain when you drink it. But you can enjoy it because you have to struggle a little bit during your drive, which is so boring. Only that the sales increased 100%. Because they truly understand what they're trying to do at this point. Another example, Reese, we all know this, we all ate it before when we were kids. Some of you might still like it these days. Number two best-selling chocolate candy in the US. Now, again, same thing. They're trying to probe in people's lives and try to increase sales. And I find out that people eat Reese all the time in different situations, like when they're driving, when they going into a packed subway, or when they're playing games and stuff. Now, the original one, this is like, I think this big. The original one, it's too big and it's kind of messy. When you eat it, it's kind of ruin your hand and stuff. So they have this small ones, right? We are very familiar with this one. But this one also has a problem. First of all, it's hassle to open, to use two hands. You cannot open this with one hand. So if you are in a packed subway, for example, it would be difficult. Second of all, which is much more important than the first one, is that you have an outer wrapper, right? And it starts to accumulate, which is a very small one, and it starts to accumulate to a mountain of oil. And you start to say to yourself, ooh, I had that many already? You feel guilty to stop eating. Not good for the company, right? So they fix this problem with an very easy thing. They released Reese Minis. So the job they're trying to fix is that it has to be easy to eat and try not to make people that guilty eating. Right? So there's no foil, and it can stand on its own, so you can put one hand, right? Just by doing this Reese Mini, it's generated 235 million in sales in 2 years. Of course, it cannibalized the old one a little bit, but overall, the sales grows. Now, I'm in the cosmetic industry, so we ask this question a lot. In order to enhance this picture, you need to go, right now, you need to go buy like a red lipstick and a red nail polish. Does customer really wants that, or they just want a red lip and a red nail? Because if they want a red lip and a red nail, today you need lipstick and a nail polish, of course. But 3 years from now, you probably have a nail that sticks to your real nail and then change color with iPhone. That's not out of reach. And when that comes in, all the nails polish might be gone. This is like a CD and the music streaming that we did these days. Unless, of course, you collect nail polish, but I rarely think that people do that. Now, that's the job. After we do the job, we need to find before we can fix the job, we need to find the inside of the customers as well. Right? So, Dove, one of my favorite brands. Dove has this long-standing kind of campaign, you say, since the 50s, which you are very familiar. It's a soap, and they put a moisturizer in it, right? And it said like 25% of this is a moisturizing cream, so Dove won't dry your skin. This campaign was a brainchild of David Ogilvy himself. This is a huge case study, right? So it's a very awesome campaign. Now in 2000, Unilever has a new plan for Dove. They want to transform Dove from a soap brand to a beauty brand. Now, you cannot use that to be a beauty brand. It has to be something a little bit more deeper. So they do this huge survey, 10 countries, thousands of people. They have an interesting finding, right? So they find that 2% of all the surveys they go into describe themselves as beautiful. The other, like natural average. So people don't really think themselves as a beautiful person. Many believe that beautiful woman has better opportunity in life. And most women think that media suck as doing, the job for like representing the beauty. Because when you watch the magazines or you watch the TV ad, you see that this cannot be a real person, right? How can a real person, like, you have to eat like half an apple to stay in this chain. So don't find this out and they get a very interesting insight. Since women have poor self-esteem, and the matter concerning their own attractiveness, the insight is that they don't consider themselves beautiful because of the society has imposed on them. Right? So Dove launched a very, very powerful campaign called Real Beauty, which still runs till today, and it's one of the most successful campaigns of all time. This is one of, they have like a lot of ads, right? But this is one of the ones I like the most. And yes, we don't have the sound, sorry. I'm gonna have to use a very manual way. Oops. Sorry. This actually happens when you do a patch shooting. So I think it's a very interesting observation. Now, I had to skip this one because I only have like 2 minutes left, right? Do you have insights? Do you have, you know your customers? Don't forget the execution. The execution is like one of the most important part, and you hold like almost all the power here as an owner of the brand, right? So let's think of this a little bit. You are an executive of the brand, you are, say, the CMO of the brand, and you want to launch an app so that an agency comes in. This is a perfectly powerful app of Nike printer. Right? So, great, awesome. Now, it's like a wonderful app already, but it looks great, but there's no logo, right? So you're concerned a little bit with the logo. So you tell the creative, the agency, no, let's add the logo. It's like, okay, sir, of course, it's your money. We add the logo. Yeah, looks great. But where's our product, right? Where's our product? We have to tell people what we're selling. How can we know what we're selling, right? And the agency said, okay, no problem. Here's your product. And we said, okay, wonderful. You know what? Should we have like the target audience in the poster as well? Okay, why not, sir? Sure. Here's the target audience. Much better. Now, I want to put like the Nike name in it too, in that sentence, because I think we have to like emphasize on the brand. How many times you say that with the creations? Emphasize on the brand. Okay, sure. With Nike, you can just do it. Yeah. Okay, much better, right? Yeah, of course. Well, how about the product feature? Right? We have this Nike Air technology. It's huge. It's like people like buying us because of Nike Air. You should put the technology in as well. Okay. So you end up with this. This looks funny, right? But it's actually this happens a lot in the process of doing campaign and stuff. To keep trying to put a lot of stuff in. I cannot emphasize this enough, but this, thank God, has never happened to Nike, and they do great ads, of course, and it shouldn't happen to you, right? So keep it simple. And thank you very much. I hope that's enjoyable.
Very interesting and interactive presentation. Khun Rit will also be back after lunch for our first panel discussion, so if you like what you just heard, you will definitely hear more of it. But now let's turn it over to Khun Pawut.
Okay, good morning. Okay, my name is Pawut. Okay, just call me Pom. Okay, a CEO and the founder of Tala.com. Okay, today I'm gonna, telling my story, what I'm doing in the last nearly 20 years to starting e-commerce company in Thailand. But it's not just one company, but I'm talking about many companies that I'm starting for a while. Okay, yeah, I'm doing a lot of business, okay, for many years, and now I'm director of many companies, including the founder of Thai E-commerce Association, and do a lot of things. Okay, let's see that what I'm doing now. Okay, this is my timeline. I'm starting a company in 1999 with three of my friends, and the first website I'm doing like the first online classifieds in Thailand, and it's growing, and now it's nearly 20 years, 19 years, going to 20 years. Now they have total company about 18 companies, about employee about nearly 340 people in the whole group. Okay, let's see what I'm doing. Okay, this thing that I'm really focusing is e-commerce. What I'm doing like an e-commerce platform and e-marketplace that is really challenging this right now. We have Tala.com and we have ThaiSecondhand.com. Tala.com is one of the first e-marketplace in Thailand, and we have ThaiSecondhand.com is the first G2C in Thailand too. But now today, in terms of e-marketplace is quite challenging because the big giants like from China is coming, and from many countries coming to Thailand. That means really challenge to fighting with them. Then I'm flip and change business model from marketplace to other business model. Then in terms of the marketing, I have a marketing company doing like online marketing and online agency and big data company. I told you later what I'm doing. And e-payment company. I have one company do like online payment. That means I can provide like online payment, credit card, debit card payment, like installment, everything can do online. And a new startup company is named Credent. I show you that we do like a big data and eKYC that ultimately know your customer. That is really important for this day, that we need to verify the customer what we're doing. And then we're doing like a logistic in my house. I have two startups that I invested to doing about shipping, warehousing, and everything. And the last thing that I'm doing about knowledge, that is about how we educating the people to understand about e-commerce. And that to see that the thing that I'm doing is quite like the whole value chain, end to end, until the platform to the services. But when we provide it to the customer, some customer looking asking that, hey, do you have something like the total solution? Then they come up with the new team that we are all processing to do that. We call it e-trading. we training this company to helping the business to do everything for online. That means you just bring the product and we do everything. We bring the product to online, to bring the product to marketplace, and we sell the product to online. That is what we're doing in the whole framework. But let's get back. Okay, then this is a whole a company that I invested for a couple of years ago. That mostly in terms of e-commerce, payment, fintech, okay, advertising, warehousing, travel tech, big data, a lot of things that invested to see that the whole company is like a synergized together. If you, I'm back like 10 years ago, I'm just doing like only one company, but now my way of thinking changed. That when I'm doing and try to do the whole loop of the e-commerce services. Okay, let's see that. Okay, this is what I'm starting. That is 1999. It's one of the corner of my uncle company. They're doing like an aluminum company, and they have a sales office in Bangkok. And then I'm asking for the small space and working with 3 of my friends. And that time I'm still studying in a university. Actually, I'm graduate from architecture. And then that 3 of my friends were working there, and we started up the first company is named ThaiSecondhand.com. We do a C2C, and this is my team, expanding, okay. And after launching the company, I'm raising the money. That is, after opening the company for 2 years, I raised some money, and then we growing so fast, and then we do a lot of things. We do like a publishing company. We do like a publishing about book, a pocket book about how to do their online business. Because in that time, people want to do online business, but they cannot do it. Then we try to provide knowledge to them, buying like a printing, like a publishing the book, how to do everything about the online. And we have a team to educating the target market to online. And after that, I'm starting and founded the Thai E-commerce Association, because I'm founding that to running the e-commerce business. Everything fragment. We have a few companies to do the e-commerce, and then the government wants to do something about e-commerce, and we feeling that the way that government doing that is something is direction. Then we go into the wrong direction. Then I talk with my friends. I'm talking with my competitor that hey, we have to working together, because if we're not working together, maybe our country will be pushing e-commerce in the wrong way. Then we founded the e-commerce association, working together, and then we working really close with government. Now, the government just have like the Thailand e-commerce committee that bring all the organization in Thailand, including the government and private sector, to working together to creating the e-commerce roadmap for Thailand. That I'm part of that too. That I'm looking for that Thailand will boost up the country with e-commerce from now on. That's the thing that I'm really looking forward to e-commerce can change the country. And after operating the e-commerce company, I found that e-commerce is not only one stakeholder to pushing the country to the e-commerce. We found that e-payment is really important. Then a few years later, I'm founded another association. This thing I'm working with Bank of Thailand, and then bring all the e-payment company, including like an e-wallet company, like a mobile operator in Thailand. Then we founded Thai e-payment association. Yeah, that is really another key organization to boost up the e-payment in Thailand. And after seeing the payment is important, but the one of the most important stakeholder for e-commerce is logistics, right? Then I kick off and try to set up the Thai e-logistics association. That is really part of that. Now I bring all the young teenager people who do the e-logistics startup, and then we bring up and then we set up the association. As of the 3 stakeholders for the e-commerce in Thailand, we have e-commerce association, we have E-Payment Association, and now they changed the whole association. And then we have an E-Logistics Association. Then all we're working together to drive the county. It's kind of like one of the big major movement for me that kick off all the very major association to drive e-commerce in Thailand. That now we are working perfectly to with the government. Okay. That's the thing that I'm doing for many years. And after running the company about 10 years for e-commerce, and e-commerce in Thailand is not moving so fast, everything quite boring. Because back to maybe 7 years ago, people, they're purchasing stuff to online, and they're not paying online. They still use online payment. They not use online payment. They just use like a bank transfer. And back to 2009, one of the largest e-commerce company from Japan, they came to Thailand, and then they asked me, hey, why are you not there? And Rakuten is one of the largest e-commerce company in Japan. They're looking for to expand the company to the whole world. And Thailand is the second country that the Japanese, they would like to expand in. Then I decided to sell my share to Rakuten. Then I'm part of Rakuten company. I'm become like a minority of the company. And then Rakuten become majority of my company, and then we changed the whole company to another thing, to be a global company. Company in that time, Rakuten, they are the number 8 in the world in terms of the size of the company, and we operating e-commerce. We bring the know-how from Japan to Thailand. We change everything. We try to pushing Thai people to purchase stuff in online and pay online. We do a lot of things. We bring know-how and all operation from Japan to Thailand and change everything. After that, e-commerce in Thailand become like a pickup. People in Thailand start paying online. In that time, we say that in our website, the people paying in online with the credit card up to nearly 60%, they're paying through the credit card to our site. But after operating e-commerce with Japan, with the Japanese for 6 years, and things change. Big giants coming, Alibaba is coming, and game changing. Because to operating the company for maybe last 10 years ago is totally different from this day. Because in that time, when you operate the company, you have money. And you operate the company and you're looking for the profit, right? But for this day, it's totally different because when the company is coming, they're raising the money from investor. They get a huge money from investor, they're burning money, they not care about the profit at all. They care about market size, they care about the market share. That's why when the big guys coming, they have a lot of money and they keep burning money, everything free. Before that, we provide a lot of services, and all services, we get the money. But when the new provider and new competitors coming, they change the whole rules that, hey, no more paying. You can have e-commerce for free. You can have everything for free because they have money from investors. After that, okay, Rakuten and Japanese feeling that they cannot fight in the market, then they decided to quit from the market. Rakuten, leaving from South Asia. And then they decided to shut down all the companies in South Asia, including Thailand. Then they think that, oh, they're going to shut down my company. Then I decided, and talking to them that, hey, you cannot shut down my company, but let me buy back. Then I buy back the whole company back to my arms again. Then after buying the company back, it's really hard time for me because everything is totally changed. E-commerce is not the same as last 10 years because everything is free. You need a lot of money to invest in. And you need a lot of money to fighting with a big giant company. Then I changed a lot of business. But finally, early this year, I got a new partner, new investor. This is a TCC Group, one of the big conglomerate in Thailand. They do a lot of business, but one of the business very famous in Thailand is Chang Beer, right? Chang Beer, Chang, okay, like that. And if you're from Singapore, one of the most successful business, F&N, like also that's a company that TCC own, and then they decided to invest in my company. Although I have a big company invest in my company, I changed business model, and now I'm on process to turn around the company. That's the thing that I'm doing. Okay, that is my e-commerce company. But after I'm working with that, working with Dana.com, I have more time. Then I spend my time to doing other business too. Because just starting e-commerce is not, not completely. Then I'm starting another company, and this is the online agency, and we do a lot all about the online marketing, online strategy for the big brand in Thailand, and a lot of brand we do the media planning, strategy, creativity, and everything for big brand. But this company I'm not running, and just give it to my friend to operating. Okay, and 2006 they got their agency of the year, and they do a lot of work. That is not the part, because e-commerce is selling. But before you get sales, you need someone to advertising and marketing. Then I decided to do online marketing company. Okay. And things changed because I have more time to do that. Then I want to do something, and I'm starting a business. This business name Go Social. Go Social is one of the big one company I'm doing like a big data. We're aggregating all data from social media, from Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all those data from website in Thailand. And after we get the data, we analyze data from the big data that we have. That means you can learn everything, because when we have a trillion of messages from Thai people all over the world, all over Thailand, what they're talking. I mean, we can see that, okay, what people are talking about, whatever you want to know. I mean, if you are a brand, you want to know what people are talking about your brand, you can use, the tools to monitor everything. Are they like you? Are they hate you? Are they complain about you? What gender, male or female talking about you, okay? And everything we can track that, including the location. And if you can know the location of the people talking about your brand, including talking about your competitor. Then we will hold big data, we can analyze it. We can knowing what people are thinking, what the customer is thinking. That is very important to run a business too, right? I mean, after running the company for 4 years, I have no time, everything, too much for me now. Then I decided to merging my company with another company. Actually, before that, my company named Social Inc. But one of my competitors is named Dot Social, Dot Media. Then I talking to them, hey, no need to fighting. I have no time. You have a good technology, I have a good marketing. Why are we not merging together? Then we decided, finally we are merging the company together to become like a Dot Social. That is very good, because we jump up to another step after we merging. But after operating for nearly 1 year, we merging to another company. Then we 3 companies merging together. Another company is named OB-Walk, okay. OB-Walk, they're doing online social media marketing too. Then after we merging, we get funded by Stock Index of Thailand, and also the government bank. They invest about 35 billion Thai baht to our company. That means now we become like a top social media or marketing company in Thailand. That is emerging. For me, no need to operate the company. I give the company to my partner. Hey, please run the company. Okay. Then you may have more time to focus on the business. And that means to running the business, sometimes people thinking that, okay, you have to operating, you have to start up, you have to do everything by yourself. But M&A is one of the key that you can expand the business faster, and you can turn your competitor to become like a partner, and we can working together. After we are merging together, now we expand to Malaysia and to other countries. And then startup is coming. Okay, then I'm seeing that, okay, the startup is coming, then I have some idea, and I want to start my own startup. And in terms of e-commerce, it's not fully complete yet. And I have an idea to doing about about the shipping. Then I start the company named ShipUp. ShipUp is one of the logistic company that I have no time. Then I'm talking with one of teenager. In that time, he about 24 years old. I talked to him that, hey, I have an idea to start a logistic company. Why are you not working with me? Okay, and then we decided to working together. We doing business plan, we do a lot of things, and then we come up with a ShipUp. And ShipUp is one of the shipping gateway. Because to running the e-commerce, shipping is the key. Okay. And how we can operate it, because when you ship product, okay, sometimes you need like a really fast shipping. Sometimes you need very slow one and very cheap one. Sometimes you want to frozen delivery. Sometimes you want to a few hour delivery. But each of logistic company they have uniqueness of them, right? Some of logistic can do very good in terms of in Bangkok. Some of logistic company very good in food delivery. Some logistic company have a frozen delivery, but how we can get all the service in one place? Then ShipUp is helping that because they are key to connect all the logistic company. Then after we working that, okay, we operating the ShipUp for 1.5 years, and this is something like that. Okay, then if you want to ship something, you just go to ShipUp, and then they can compare it. Which service logistics company is one of the best for you? How much of that? Okay, and how long time is the product gonna shipping to your destination? Then you can compare everything. And when you just click and you pay to the ShipUp, and then you can have a labeling and you put the labeling to your parcel and you can ship it. Okay. After we operating for 4.5 years, everything growing so fast. Okay, and they're growing about 600%, and the revenue for the 1.5 year, we hit nearly $2 million, and we're profitable. The team is really young. Okay, they just now we expand to the whole country. Then we ship all the product to the whole country. Last year we shipped about 2 million product. It's just starting. Okay, and they're winning a lot of the competition. And this is the team. Okay, most of the team is about 25 years old. They just graduated, and I'm so wow, they're growing so fast. Okay, and to operate the ShipUp is changed my thinking way to run the business. And now after that, I bring the ShipUp to expand to Malaysia and do the JV with the local partner in Malaysia. Now we have a ShipUp Malaysia. We have ShipUp Malaysia. Just 1.5 years. And now we have Thai ShipUp Thailand and ShipUp Malaysia. And last month, our valuation up to $10 million. Just 1.5 years. Wow, so fast, okay. Then in comparing to both social, one of the company and operating nearly 6 to 7 years, valuation up to 10 million. But for the ShipUp, just 2 years, less than 2 years, the valuation up to 10 million. And the size of the company totally different. Okay, the both social they have nearly 100 people, but the ShipUp company they have 16 people in the company, and valuation is same. The growth is totally different. That's remind me. Oh my God! I'm operating the company last 10 years or 20 years ago, and as of now, everything totally different. The money you can grab is very easy because when the business is growing so fast. A lot of investors are looking for to invest in the company, right? And ShipUp investing a lot of money to the company, and then after investing the money, we're growing so fast, and we can turn profitable very fast too. That's the thing that okay, to operate an e-commerce company, I have experience last 10 years, and now experience for today, totally different. That's why when people are talking about startup, it's totally different from the SME. Because when you operate in SME, you are SME, you're growing, slowly growing, okay. Maybe you're growing 20%, 30% per year. But for startup, we're growing about 100%, many 100% per year. We're small, we're fast. We can expand to other countries very fast. Right? That's part of my company to do that. And then I'm still keep investing in other, e-commerce related I'm investing in the company named Siam Outlet. We're doing warehousing, fulfillment. That means you can keep the product. They have space, and then you can keep the product in their warehouse. And after you get an order, normally you have to ship everything by yourself, right? When you have 100 orders, you have to do everything by yourself. But this you can outsource it to them. That means when you have an order, you have people buying the product, you just send the order to them, and then they pick up your product and the shipping, they do everything for you. That means for you, you don't need to do everything. You just outsourcing everything. This has become like a part of my ecosystem. And then going so fast, and then keep investing in terms of construction technologies. Build.com now they expand so fast, and Build now the valuation is go crazy right now because they are one and only and construction startup. Okay, and this is one of the data I'm investing in Build. And on the company we're doing about even online inventory management, the software that I invested to. And it's one of their eKYC and credit scoring. And because now in Thailand, when you do this thing, you need a lot of documents. But with the Credit, you can replace everything to online. And it's just showing your ID card, and you can do like an application, take photo of your ID card, and everything can do. Bring the data from your ID card and checking with the government, and also they do the face recognition that you and your ID is the same person. I mean, after operating, definitely Credit is more fast because the company just 1 year now the valuation is up to 2 million, and the people just 5 people in the company. So fast. I mean. That means when you have a startup company, if your company have a right and you do things differently, and you grow so fast, I mean you can earn money very easy from investing. And Pixket is one of that. Okay, so about the travel tech company, and we have a team, and let me just think that okay, I'm operating the company more than 10 years. Everything, start slowly, 5 people, 10 people, we are slowly growing. We try to generate revenue and we try to survive, and then we slowly. But for the company that I'm starting for a few years, it's totally different the way that we operating. And you see, speed is really matter for the business right now. If your business running for 10 years, 20 years, and you still remain open the same way that you're doing, that is quite risky for you because the new company, new startup is coming. And they're coming, they're going to eat you because you big and you're slowing and you do things, the same thing. That's why as a company or business in Thailand, all over the world, you need to change. You need to change your business, you need to change your operation. Or you are the leader, you need to change your vision because your vision maybe your attitude in the last 10 years, 20 years, you can no longer use as of today because everything will totally change. Then for me, it's good for me that I'm running the company last 20 years and I'm running the company in the last few years. It helped me changing my attitude to operating the company. That means think like startup and be working like startup to change the company to working faster. And okay, this is the thing that I'm learning from that because when you start up, you are a red dot. Okay, sorry, it might be kind of easy to see that. You are a red dot, right? And you in your company, you have a 2 friends, and then you're starting like a company is growing like that. And then I'm learning that okay, when you are growing enough, you don't need to operate the company. You don't need to operate day-to-day operation. Thing is, you should. That means the company like that, you have CEO, CFO, and everything. For me, I would like not to be the part of the company. I would like to have all the people to run the company, and then it's good for me to creating like each company that I'm out of the company and let them operating by themselves. This is my plan. This is my plan to build up the company that I'm behind the company and then let them operating. The new company that I'm investing, I'm owning just 10%, 20%, or 30%. I'm not the majority of the company because if you're a majority, you're an owner. If you're owner, you do everything, right? But if you change that, okay, I don't want to be the owner. I want to be the supporter and partner, and then I can do everything. This is my whole framework. You see that okay, we have customer, I have a education team, we can educate them, and they want to do marketing. I have a marketing company, and if you want to sales, I have a sales company. If you want to pay, I have a payment company, shipping, and warehouse company, and the last thing we have analytic company. This is the whole ecosystem for e-commerce that I'm investing. And start everything by myself. Now today, I'm trying to helping, to supporting the local business, including the new startup, and to bring and align everything together to make a synergize between the group company. That is the story of what I'm doing about the e-commerce in Thailand. That means you should learning that starting the company last 10 years and starting the company from this day, it's totally different. And it's time for you, or if you know someone, you have to tell them that they need to change. If you still remain, you're going to be behind. Okay? Thank you. Thank
you for sharing your story. It's a really mind-bogglingly wide array of companies in your portfolio. Very impressive indeed. So now I would like to allow for about 5 minutes of questions from the floor, maybe 2 questions. So please raise your hand or write on the notes or anything. First question. Questions can be addressed to either one of these speakers or both of these speakers as well.
All right. Thank you for both of you for getting the great presentations. But I have questions to Mr. Forum. As you mentioned earlier that you graduated from Faculty of Architect, which have totally nothing to do with e-commerce business. I want to know what are the main factors that make you decide to choose to run a business for e-commerce, and why does it seem so important to you that since you've been doing this for like 20 years and you still keep expanding your business, and most of them are involved in e-commerce business. So as an architect, can you please explain the importance of e-commerce?
Maybe the whole framework is one of my factors. Architecture keep building a company, keep building like a house and a building. But for me, I'm architecting like a company. But the good thing when you're learning, when you're studying architect, we are in between. Because architecture, we are in between engineer and artist, right? Because when we talk about artists, everything like have to be creativity, right? But sometimes it's hard to be realistic. But when you talk about engineer, everything must be realistic. Everything must be rigid. But when we talk about architecture, we are in between. I mean, it's helping me to each business I'm doing and try to create things differently. Differentiation is my key. If someone doing, I do things different. But the thing that I'm doing differently is possible. That's why we are in between art and engineering. Same thing. When I do the business, I do business differently, but possible. That's why when I do each business, everything, all the business must be no one do it, or someone do it. I'm twisting, I'm change things that to provide things differently from the other.
And why do you choose e-commerce?
The thing is because when I'm graduated from architecture, architecture in Thailand, we are very dirty guys, long hair, short hair like that. And back to crisis in Thailand in 1999, a lot of we have a garage market in Thailand, right? And I'm like secondhand stuff. My shirt, everything is secondhand, okay. And that time, why we not have a secondhand market or garage sales in online? Then that's why I'm starting the ThaiSecondhand.com. But in that time, actually I didn't know that is e-commerce. I'm opening ThaiSecondhand for 2 years, and then people told me that, hey, you're running e-commerce. I said, what the hell e-commerce? I don't know. That thing is, I'm starting my hobby like that. And then pushing me to working with e-commerce from that day.
Okay, next question.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. You mentioned about SME growth, the difference between SME growth and startup investment. And you said that the SME growth on a gradual takes you 10 years to reach, but the startup actually here and it was worth more than the SME growth for 10 years. So what is the best advice to people like us from private sector who are struggling with SME for e-commerce for a long time? What is the best advice to us to get out of that mode and be a startup?
Each operating company, you do e-commerce, and sometimes if you're doing that and then you're feeling that that is not completely, maybe you can invest in other startup like me. And when you invest, keep investing in everything like the whole value chain of e-commerce, you can control the whole value chain, and you can do something differently. That means I would recommend, it's maybe not investing, maybe you have a partner, no need to use money, right? Or maybe something that, okay, if you're doing and you're feeling that, okay, you like this and you want to growing faster, merging with competitor is one of the, the way that you can do it, like doing. And operating for 4 years, nothing changed, and you cannot be merging together. And after we merging together, but we have to find who is the right partner. We are, I'm strong in, you are strong in technology and they're strong in marketing, and then it's good matching. Maybe merging maybe fast, growing faster than operating by yourself. Or maybe you're very, strong in your country, and then maybe you can be partner or merging with the company do the same thing in other country. That you can be like a big group of the company like that. Now, I think this idea is coming a lot, like in South Asia. And some of my company, they are very strong in Thailand, and some of company do the same thing, they are very strong in Vietnam. And we start talking that, hey, why we not merging together? Okay, we creating a big holding company, and all of us going up and hold a share in the holding company, and then we operating in 2 countries. And then we use the holding company start expanding to other countries. Then you can expand the business faster.
Thank you.
Yep.
So we can have one last question. Over there. The lady in green. Over there.
I would like to ask to Mr. Ravi, and you said that in terms of interviewing with the customers, for some people it is quite difficult to understand. They just want to say the good things in front of the company, but they want to say about the bad things behind your back. So how to deal with such kind of the problems to get a good, to be flexible in the market?
If you do actually you do a lot of stuff with that particular issue. If you do an interview, like a good researcher, when they do like in-depth interview or a one-on-one interview, they'll know how to dig up like bad stuff, or stuff that that it's, say you don't like the product, for instance. They'll have a way to find out. Like the one that I showed you is one of the way. It might be like verbally. It can be like your facial expression and stuff. You can also do like what Bom said, social media tools. You can like gathering like all kinds, because when people talking in social media, they kind of tends to be quite honest about the product or the service, because they really be themselves per se, right? So that's the other thing. But I think you have to like using traditional media and the new media and the online media and stuff. It has to be like the right balance. You have to take time to find that balance, and because a lot of data you gather will be garbage. Sorry to use that word. Yeah, it will be garbage. And if you cannot like taking out the garbage, you don't know what is the garbage. Eventually you will end up with the very, very bad strategy, and it will bring you to like a bad business decision, and eventually like bad product service. that need a lot of experience and knowledge and stuff. But yeah, that's why we need professional market research company. That's why they still have big paying jobs these days, because they really know how to dig this stuff.
One more question is, how about learning from our competitors who are very successful in the market?
No, that's one thing we can do, but be very careful as well, because one thing about competitors is that keep in mind that their customers and our customers probably not going to be totally the same, right? So by learning from them and think that what they do will apply to us, mirrorly apply to us, 100% apply to us, I found out that it's usually not the case. So basically, for example, let's say in the car business, right? If you are BMW and Mercedes, you're huge, head-on competitors, right? But if you do one thing if you are a BMW executive, for example, and you do the things that Mercedes do because you think that's they're doing it and it works with them, it might totally flop when you do it because you have slightly different customer profile per se. Yeah. My pleasure.
Thank you very much for your questions, and a big round of applause to our speakers. So while they're making their way down the stage, just a little announcement. So we found a lost and found parking ticket. If it belongs to anyone, just come to me while we're at lunch. So before we go to lunch, I just want to mention something that the slides that all the speakers have put up, if they consent us to do so, we will post all of them onto the Apec website shortly after the conclusion of the workshop. So be on the lookout on the Apec website for these slides. And since we're pretty short on time, I would have to kindly sort of shorten your lunch a little bit. So if we can have lunch and come back at 1:30, and lunch will be served at a restaurant called The Market, which is on this floor of the hotel. There will be staff in front guiding you the direction to the restaurant. And yeah, please come back here at 1:30. Thank you.